Here we go.
In 5, 4, 3.
Call to me, lands far away.
Elves have forests to protect.
We need to build a wall.
Dwarfs their mines. Men their fields of grain. But we Harfoots have each other.
For I must now wander this wandering day.
We're safe.
You have fought long enough, Galadriel.
No.
Put up your sword.
The enemy is still out there. The question now is where?
It is over.
Nothing is over! Nothing! You were the chosen one! It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them!
If you only knew the power of the dark side.
Darkness will march over the face of the earth. It will be the end, not just of our people, but all peoples.
Everyone! I am sorry, but their time has come.
The past is with us all. The past is dead. We either move forward or we die with it.
This could be the beginning of a new era.
Away I must wander this wandering day.
To him finally being lionized in the prime and his prime. Fuck.
Do it!
Shit.
Just do it! Don't let your dreams sleep. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true!
Luke went from being... Oh, no. Welcome, Slayer Nation. I have some great news for you today. I hope you're all doing great. Nope, that didn't work. One more.
You have failed me for the last time.
Welcome, Slayer Nation. I hope...
If you're tired of starting over, stop giving up.
That is eating away at what you love in order for it to shine. And one man's vision is... Sometimes you don't have to make things better for them to be great again. You merely have to... Okay. Hollywood continues to slow boil the culture and crazy. Well, right now, Spider-Man actor Andrew Garfield has stepped up and he's fighting motherfucker.
I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it.
And unbearded dwarves, but Prime didn't stop there. They stapled in intersectionality, individuality, biddiga-dig-bee, biddiga-dig-boo.
So it begins.
At my signal, unleash hell.
Slayer.
What's going on, everybody? We are back. We have one hell of a show for you today. I hope you're all doing well and you had an amazing week. It was a bit of a crazy week. I mean, well, in Texas, it's hot as hell, so we're trying to keep cool. But then you had Disney put out the Acolyte. They did so bad, Disney took it in the Dumbo. We're going to talk about that. Then you had Adobe. They went nuts with their new terms of service. And then you had the new Bad Boys film. I think it's number 4, Bad Boys, Riot or Die. It beat all expectations, and it's blown the box office away. So we're going to discuss that also. Plus, there's some good news before we dump into Disney Plus's new Star Wars series that Ian McKellen and Viggo Mortensen might have some surprises for us. So are you ready? I see everybody is here. We got the king of mods, Eric K., and we have, I think, Lord Thoth is here. Joseph P., hello. Let's see everybody who's here. Santa Ranger, Danny, Olaf, my friend. I hope everything's going well. Nini, David Moore, and all my friends. All right. So are you ready? Let's get rolling. Welcome, Slayer Nation. Our very first guest is a Navy veteran. He's also titan of pop culture critique and woke culture. He comes straight from the front lines of fandom. He is the commander of commentary. Welcome the man himself, the one and only Ryan Kinel from RK Outpost.
That was quite an introduction. I was not ready for that, but well done, George. I feel like you're overselling a little bit, but I will take it until it's proven otherwise. What's going on, man?
Great to see you. Great to see you, my friend. Great to see you. No, you deserve it, man. You've taken down some, well, you know Star Wars inside and out, and you take on the woke culture like nobody else. I mean, you drive that spike straight into their heart.
Yeah, I try to not hold back too much. That's the goal. But yeah, It's good to be here, man.
No, you know, I learned a lot from you. I remember in the beginning when we first talked, I was like, should I couch it in this way? You're like, fuck it, just tell them exactly what you feel. So
that's the best way in the landscape of mainstream media's downfall, right? People are being drawn more and more to other things, and it's because authenticity, because they want to know that, hey, this person, they're not spinning it. They're not giving me some bullshit. They're giving me exactly what they think. Whether that's exactly what I think, maybe hit or miss every video, but as long as I think that that person is telling me what they feel, I'm going to trust them. That's what they're looking for.
That's beautiful. And joining you, now I want everybody to hold on to your hats and your cookies, because we're going to get ready for a journey with a wizard of lore and sage of the screen. Her insights are sharp enough to cut through a spice worm. Put your hands together to welcome the geek guru of sci-fi and fantasy, the always charming and inspiring Nerd Cookies.
Hey, thank you. Again, great intro. Glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you. Yeah, I met you on Film Threat, and I was like, I've been watching your videos ever since. I love them, especially your Dune videos. Wow.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So we have a lot to cover today. And we had a guest from last week we had such a great time with. I asked him if he'd come back, and he agreed. So again, get those keyboards clacking to give him a big Slayer Nation welcome. This man's videos, they're not only fun and informative, but when he takes on Hollywood's lies, he kind of like salts the wounds with his spicy truth. Say hello to the king of cutting commentary, the one and only Verbal Riot.
Hey, how's it going, man? Thanks for having me back. And yeah, I don't know where you get these intros from. I don't deserve it.
No, you do. You do. Absolutely.
You deserve it, man.
Absolutely. Your videos. I mean, you, again, like Ryan, you just take it straight to them. And I love that. I think people appreciate that because they're tired of all the, kind of like the fake news who wants to spin a lie. You just, boom, you nail them.
Yeah, I'm no longer welcome on Rotten Tomatoes. So they don't post my reviews anymore.
That's their loss. But now we have another special guest. She comes from the far reaches of the galaxy. She navigates the fandom with the precision of a Jedi, and all her critiques, they have the power of a Death Star blast. Let's give a big Slayer Nation welcome to the unstoppable, the ultimate defender of the Force, that Star Wars girl.
Oh, hello. Thank you for that intro.
Absolutely. How are you doing?
I'm sick. How are you?
Oh, sorry about that.
Okay. I'm growing a human, so
yeah, everybody.
Congratulations, by the way.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Wow.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Yep, that Star Wars girl is giving us another Jedi. And hopefully. And now to help us through all this crazy woke culture, we have the legal himself. This is a man who is a true defender of free speech and a constitutional wizard. Put your hands together for Ron Coleman.
Hey, how you doing? How are you all? Good to see you. Nice to meet you, Verbal Riot. We have also Elaine. I said hi before in the green room, and Star Wars Girl. First time hanging out with you. Ryan and I already hate each other. Great to meet you guys.
I think before we get into the Acolyte, we might share a little bit of good news. I mean, you can have fun tearing the Acolyte apart. But yesterday it was announced, the independent release, that, the Warner Brothers new film, The Hunt for Gollum, the Lord of the Rings extension, that they pulled the page from the book and they're somehow going to turn into a movie. Well, Ian McKellen has announced that he is ready to jump on board. He only has one caveat, and I wanted to see how everybody felt about it. He's like, obviously, he's been in talks with him. They said, cool. He says he would do it anytime that they had a role for Gandalf, except he's like, you got to make it before I die. The other thing he said is it's going to be his last film when he does it. What do y'all think? Y'all excited to have Gandalf back? The real one, not Rings of Power, the Stranger, whatever.
Yeah, get on it.
Yeah, it is a little like morbid, right? Because he's like, hey, if they want me, I'll do it as long as I'm alive. As long as I'm not dead, I'll do the role. And it would be kind of crazy to think, how old is he now? He's got to be
85.
85.
He's got to be closing in on 90. So they better get it rolling quick. I'm not sure how I feel about the movie overall.
Yeah.
The idea of turning something that's just so brief in the books into a massive movie. It's kind of tough, but hopefully they pull it off and they can get all these right people involved. We'll be a lot happier to see that than Rings of Power.
I feel like they struggled enough with the Hobbit movie. I don't know if this is a smart move to do this
Hunt for Gollum
movie. Yeah,
I agree. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I kind of agree with Ryan that the initial premise, when I heard that, it's not what I would have chosen. I thought that wouldn't have been my first choice, but they've earned the benefit of the doubt. They gave us one of the best film trilogy ever. So they've earned my optimism, and hopefully the studios will just let them create. And that's what I think kind of hindered The Hobbit in a lot of respects, that studio interference. So as long as they can just let the creators do their thing, let the studios just pay the money, and hopefully they'll get on it and create something beautiful.
but there's not going to be less studio interference these days, right?
I don't know. With Fran Walsh and Peter Jackson, that's a good question, and we have someone here, because SlayerNation wouldn't be complete without our master of media melee, the guy who raises film analysis to an art, the cinematic sharpshooter, Little Platoon. Let's get him out here.
Hello.
Hello, my friend. No, not a problem. I can't wait to watch your video on the Acolyte. But what do you think about that, Ian McKellen coming back? Ryan was saying it's a little bit morbid, but I'm looking forward to him.
A little bit. I mean, I think it was mentioned as well, problems with The Hobbit. One of the things that always stuck out to me is that obviously they brought Christopher Lee back in to play Saruman at that point. But he was so much, he was one of those very lucky people who doesn't age between the ages of about 45 and 90. But once he got over that sort of the final milestone, you could tell he was not on set for most of it, and also the power in the voice was mostly gone. And it was a little bit sad to see, I suppose. And Gandalf is a more active role anyway. So I think it would invite comparisons that the film itself might not necessarily want, to bring back an obviously older and less firm and able Ian McKellen for the role. I can see why they would want to do it. It's name recognition for a film which otherwise has very little reason to be. I just can see it being a little bit morbid and maybe a bit depressing, but we will see.
We also had Viggo Mortensen was asked, because they supposedly are now in talks to bring him back. And he went on Instagram where he shared this, because obviously he wants to come back. He's just basically, hold on. Can y'all hear it? It doesn't sound. There we go.
I know what the idea of it is. I'm not sure technically how they would pull it off, but knowing Peter Jackson or his team and Andy Serkis, these are very clever, inventive people, and the Lord of the Rings I saw people solving all kinds of problems all the time, and doing things that you thought, well, how are they going to do that in this place? And they would find a way to do it. So who knows? I mean, I'm open to it, sure. I
He
had
was
a
very enthusiastic about this whole thing, I got to say.
big, huge adventure.
He had
Have you seen him do interviews? That's the most enthusiastic you're going to get from him.
Bingo. See, and it's actually right. The problem he's worried about, he gave another interview, but it was really choppy with SiriusXM, is he doesn't understand how they're going to bring him back as Aragorn from 20 years ago. They were talking about the technology, but he's like, they can pull it off.
Yeah, that's when I had heard a different clip as well. And he basically said, listen, I would love to do it as long as I can do it. If they can figure out a way for me physically, for me to look the part, for me to do all the like I would love to be able to do it if it's right. And I think probably for both of these guys, they both feel like if there was anything impeding them, that if the performance that they were able to give didn't capture what they felt it needed to do, I don't think they'd do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Do you think the technology's out there to de-age them properly without it looking phony? Anyone?
It's spotty at best. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, that's probably the peak, I guess, of where the technology is at.
It probably cost $30 million just for that part, just for the de-aging of Indiana Jones.
And to do it for an entire film? Wow.
It is
That's
getting better.
good.
I mean, if you compare the Dial of Destiny to, I'm trying to think of like even like Luke Skywalker in the Book of Boba Fett, and then you compare that to one of the first sort of big ones was when they de-aged Flynn in Tron Legacy. And just in the space of what, 5 years, the advancement in that technology is staggering. And I would expect it to be better if they did it again, but it is incredibly expensive. It will always, I think, have a slightly uncanny valley feel to it, or at least an aspect of the uncanny valley. And I don't necessarily think you would want that for your lead all the way through your movie. I think that would put people off. It would put me off.
Well, before we wrap up the Lord of the Rings, Vigo, which I had no idea, put out a new movie this week. The Dead Don't Hurt. I didn't know anything about it. It's like I didn't find any marketing about it. It's like I had to go look for it. It was the first time because I was looking for Tolkien material.
Is that like my foot doesn't hurt?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, does it mean that the dead don't feel pain, or does it mean that they don't cause pain?
Now we're getting philosophical.
Just trying
Interesting.
to the syntax, the English.
The Dead Don't Hurt. It's supposed to take place, I think, either right towards the end of the Civil War or right after it. The thing is he made sure that there was an Easter egg in there for all Tolkien fans. Now, I can't stand Stephen Colbert, but there's this 10-second clip where Mortensen shares this.
This one, because in this movie, there's a dream sequence in which there's a medieval knight right there. And there's on the horse right there. If you look closely, there's a sword.
What is that?
That is a particular sword for those of us with a keen eye. Jim, can we get a shot of the sword that Vigo gave me about 15 years ago up in the balcony? That right there. That's Anduril that you gave me in 2008.
So he put that. Yeah, it is cool. I mean, he goes on to basically, try to get people to see the movie. He's like, consider it like the fourth Lord of the Rings film, The Dead Don't Hurt. Because he wanted to use the sword for that dream sequence. So he was explaining how he had to call Peter Jackson. And Jackson's like, oh, I don't own it. You got to call New Line Cinema. So he's like going through this whole thing. And now we've avoided it for as long as we can. The Acolyte. I think the best thing I like about it is its name. That's it. So, Acolyte. Some excitement there. I was, I had saved this for a video that I've been working on for the Acolyte. And it was when I was reviewing all the different clips that people were sharing around. Where is it? Come on, here it is. Let's start with this. This will be a good one. I know most of y'all have seen it.
This is like what we understand to be Star Wars. Like the idea that that only came from George Lucas, that only George Lucas holds the key for what we understand to be Star Wars is just untrue. And I think the prequels are an excellent example of that. I mean, the idea that when you're hiring a director, that everyone is sitting in there waiting for George Lucas and not for the person who's going to know to hire Ralph McQuarrie, that's the problem. That's the misogyny and the problem with the auteur myth as it stands today, because they're not thinking this is the person that will hire the right people, and this is the person that will be able to create the lookbooks and direct people to get them to that place. They're just thinking, do you have all the answers? And the truth is that nobody does, and anybody that says they do.
Oh my God. Does she know that he hired Ralph McQuarrie and met
Right.
him like at Boeing?
What does
But
that
this-
do with misogyny either? What-
Right. This is what's funny. So that she gave, I think it was 2019 or 2020. Here's what's funny. In an interview she gave a few days ago. Where is that little thing? I wish I could just have all this.
I like how she talks about misogyny, yet she worked for Harvey Weinstein.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much like his, I would say, pimp.
I have a clip of her somewhere saying like that was her greatest achievement in life.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I would love to see that. But here she is.
It probably was, because it's like the only reason she probably got into Hollywood at all. So she probably
Mhm.
loved doing it.
Do you think she knows pretty much where all the skeletons are buried? That's how she gets a job.
100%.
Yeah, because 6 months ago, I was working on a long Star Wars video essay, and I had this clip where she's in front of the stage, some stage, and it's disappeared, where she explained, somebody asked her, how did you break into Hollywood, like to make movies? And she's like, I lied. I bullshitted all of them and told them I knew what I was doing. And she goes in this whole thing about how much she lied, who she lied to. I have looked for that video everywhere. It's like disappeared.
I've got a version of that in my video. It's only a short one though, where she says like that she's advice to women trying to get into Hollywood is that the men will just go and they'll put on a Spielberg hat and they will never admit what they don't know. So her advice to women looking to get into the industry, if you get the opportunity, is to go there and pretend you know what you're talking about. And that's how she got her first job and her second job, and evidently it's how she keeps getting jobs as well. But it was funny, it's also mentioned in the video that, you know, you will have Kathleen Kennedy coming out and saying things like it's very misogynistic that the male-dominated Star Wars fan base is directing so much abuse at the women who are stepping into Star Wars. And I'm thinking, but you just hired someone who is famous for never seeing abuse against women. So, like, Leslie's not struggling with that. She doesn't notice it.
Not at all. Well,
All right, the left is never moved by accusations of hypocrisy. That's it, no sense in spinning our wheels about that.
But Ron, how do you get them to take that? How do you get them to accept that?
No, it's not for them. We can make our observations because we want to convince people who may not appreciate it and who are open to learning. But the left itself doesn't acknowledge error, doesn't acknowledge inconsistency, and because it controls so many of the channels of communication, isn't required to. Just look at any press conference.
Well, their baseline is hypocrisy, right? It's not about a just or fair or level playing field. It's not anything about that. It's about, hey, look at all of us. We've been oppressed because of this reason. It doesn't matter if we lie. It doesn't matter if we cheat. It doesn't matter if we bring some random actress to get fucked by a slob like Harvey Weinstein, right? None of these things matter because we've been oppressed. We deserve these chances. We never got them before, and we're going to take it by whatever means necessary.
On point.
You make that sound like a bad thing.
Well, what I find interesting is we just saw that video where she's like, you know, anybody who's not George Lucas, you know, like we can all do it. And then she turns around to IMDb and then Digital Spy and says this.
In the production and the script that make it feel like a real physical place, real people that I'm watching. There's dirt on the costumes. There are real puppets, stuff that to me as a viewer really kind of speaks out. I just wanted to know how important it was to kind of capture for you, Leslie, that show that feels grounded and having that kind of. Oh, it was right from the beginning. I was like, I don't want to shoot on the volume. I mean, listen, those shows are gorgeous. But I just thought my Star Wars, because I'm getting the opportunity to do this as a super fan, I just wanted to borrow all that stuff from the original trilogy.
What?
She doesn't even have a favorite Star Wars film.
No.
She likes all the Star Wars.
All of them. Could you imagine that?
Of course she does.
I mean, Verbal, could you imagine that? She's like, we don't need to be George Lucas, and you don't have to go back to him in order to make a Star Wars film. That's a few years ago. Then she makes a Star Wars, what she calls Star Wars. And it's like, oh yeah, I borrowed all the stuff from him.
But that's the whole point of the High Republic, right? The High Republic was created so that they could destroy the lore of George Lucas, right? Because if you change the High Republic, that means everything that comes after that is based on the High Republic, right?
Right. I watched episode 3. A friend gave me. If I explain to you, Chris Gore has gone into detail about it. But I was trying to figure out, I think this is what I really wanted to talk about today, because a lot of people have broken down the Acolyte, and I'm trying to understand what was the purpose to make it. And in my view, years ago when Kathleen Kennedy took over and they had bought it from George Lucas, I always had the opinion that they were in a race. How can we build a new fan base to replace the old before we run out of money? And I think that wasn't working. We can tell their stock prices, the way they're attacked, the way the brand has been damaged. But I think it goes much deeper than that. So my theory is, this again, a theory, is that someone got it together over there and they're like, okay, we have to get rid of these anchors on us. We have to move forward. We're not going to change our course. And in order to do that, we have to create something that's so vile, so disgusting, that they're just going to drop it and never going to come back.
It's so I think that actively, I don't know if it's as we need to get everyone out of here as much it is so much we are going to make Star Wars into what we have always wanted it to be, right? And damned with the consequences. If they don't like it, we're just going to label them a racist, bigot, whatever. I think in their perfect world, they would like people to just watch and acknowledge that, well, I guess we've just been racist in the past. We should really support this. But they do not care if old fans end up walking away. They just want to continue to push their agenda and turn Star Wars into the thing they wanted it to be, as opposed to what it actually is. And whenever you hear a lot of these activists that come in and they make the claim, oh, I'm just the biggest Star Wars fan in the world, but I could never really see myself represented. I always had a problem with it. Well, then you're not you were never actually a Star Wars fan, right? All these fucking buts and caveats and everything they throw in there, they always wanted it to actually be something else. And then you put them in power and they run wild with it.
Yeah, I think the message is what matters. They don't care about profit. They don't care about making money anymore, right? Because they're backed by other people. They know if they fail, they're backed, right? So I just think that for them, either you get on board with the agenda or you leave. And I think after episode 3, we're going to see the mass exodus happen.
Yeah, I do feel that it's just like just selfishness that all these projects are for. It's every person's or every creator's their vision of Star Wars. It's never about withholding and being the steward of George Lucas's mythology. It's just what they view Star Wars as, and it's what their own Star Wars story. But even still, like, it's an affront. Every new project is an affront to fans. But with this newest one, even Ahsoka before that and Obi-Wan, it's just, who is this for? Because not even general audiences could enjoy this. It seems like, yeah, anti-lore, but also like anti-entertainment. The writing, the direction, the performances are so bad, and it's so boring that everyone is just gradually, even general audiences have long left. We can tell by the viewership, the failures that we see in films that they do put out there in theaters, and also the Star Wars Hotel. The people are just apathetic.
Absolutely. I mean, Ron, if you would call like everything that's going on with Trump, you hear that term all the time, lawfare. So is this a form in many ways like what Hollywood is doing, what Disney is doing, their own form of warfare, of attrition to get rid of the fandom, or is it just to push their agenda? Like, well, I view it as both, but I'm just curious what you think.
That's a really good question. And I never thought of it that way. I do think there's an important difference. I think that the lawfare people really want to destroy the system that we inherited. That they're contemptuous of the values, and in that respect, yeah. Same thing with Disney and Hollywood in general. The difference is money. They want to keep making a lot of money. And the Lawfare people want to keep making a lot of money too. In fact, that's one of the reasons that they're trying to spit Trump out of the system, is because he's a threat to the racket that is government and the crap that is clustered around government in the last couple of decades. But in Hollywood, there's nothing but money, because these people aren't even becoming famous because they're so mediocre. I mean, there are two reasons to go to Hollywood, right? To become famous or to make money. It's true now that the payout that a lot of these people are getting just to come in and screw up is phenomenal. But it's not going to work at Disney, because at the end of the day, there is going to have to be accountability. Although I don't think the company is fixable in any way. And I see my camera's still blinking like crazy, like a crazy monkey.
It's okay. We can hear you.
Yeah. Anyway, in any event, I think though you make a very good point. They're coming in with subversive intentions. And they want to upset the apple cart, but they want all the benefits of the apple cart. And that is true in both cases.
So how would you fight them? How would you all fight them? What would be your advice? Like, besides canceling Disney Plus, keep making noise?
So here's the thing. I hung out with a friend of mine Friday who he works for the MCU. So he gave me a lot of inside stuff that I'm not going to get into too much detail because I don't want to get him in trouble.
Yeah.
From what he told me, Star Wars, Lucasfilm is its own island in Disney. Like that, like no one messes with Kathleen Kennedy. I don't know who she has the tapes on, but everyone is afraid to touch her. So he told me the MCU, on the other hand, realized they messed up. So they are actually course correcting. We'll see it happen. He said it's not going to be right away. He said, but they realized they messed up and they are course correcting. He did tell me that. He said Lucasfilm, they're staying the course. They don't care how many people they lose.
No matter how much money they lose.
Doesn't matter. And you know what? And Disney, for some reason, won't touch Kathleen Kennedy.
That is the weirdest thing. Because, in episode 3, they go to this place where it's almost as if they're saying the Force is the patriarchy. It's not really the Force. This is the thread. For spoiler alerts, anybody who cares, it's called the thread. It's these covenant witches, and they start explaining it because it's 2 witches who have 2 girls, and they're explaining to them, the real Force is called the thread, and they go through this whole thing. And I get a feeling that they are changing this entire story to end up to replicate the Luke Skywalker story, except with girls, where we're going to end up having a scene towards the end like, I am your mother, I am your father.
Oh, no.
No, I think I'll put a bet on
you are very right.
I think that's what's
It wouldn't
coming.
surprise me.
I mean, that Star Wars girl, what do you think of that? Have you seen any of it?
No.
Thank
I don't
God.
like Star Wars. This isn't Star Wars. And
What would you
I
call
have
it?
better things to do than watch this dumpster fire.
How would you tell people to just turn it off?
Don't even bother with it.
Okay. Good point. We have somebody else here. We got, I see he just arrived. Hold on one second. He is a master of 1,000 talents. Bring him in. It is Tom from Midnight's Edge and Midnight's Edge After Dark. Tom?
Hey, Tom.
Oh, you're talking about the Star Wars?
Yes, Star Wars.
Oh.
Yes, I know. You came right on time. I was going to play this real quick. Did y'all see this one?
Oh, yeah.
No.
Okay, here we go.
Them. I think it wasn't until I was older and I could really understand things infrastructurally that I got, oh, right, Hollywood is a white institution. And that means
Jesus Christ.
that representations within Hollywood are going to be extensions of white supremacy. And not just in Hollywood, but, in music.
That's pretty much it. She goes on to explain how what I found interesting was like, okay, if Hollywood and its institutions are based structurally on white supremacy, how did she get a job?
Well, because the culture has shifted, right? That would be their argument, is that now the culture has shifted and there are finally oppressed minorities in charge of every single major film studio, which is how you can tell they are oppressed minorities, by the way. And now people like her are being given a shot, and they're going to use this platform to upend the way things have always been done. This sort of goes back to that hypocrisy point that was raised earlier. This is the reason that they don't see it as hypocrisy when they do it. The same actress, there was the clip doing the rounds of her saying, it was a joke, I think, sort of, when she was saying that the purpose of an older film she'd done was to make white people cry. And you might think, well, if I were to say the same thing and say the purpose of what I'm doing is to make black people unhappy, that would be racist. When you do it, it's not. Is that not hypocrisy? Right. They would say, no, it's not hypocrisy, because the standard by which you're judging consistency is itself a lie, right? So like this idea that everything is a white supremacist superstructure, effectively, which establishes all of these values that you can't transgress. And that's the standard of neutrality. It's not really neutral. It's just against people of color and other minorities. So it's not hypocritical from their mind to say, I am representing a system to attack a different system. They genuinely believe that they are being as consistent as they need to be to overcome something which is putting them down. The fact it's complete horseshit is, of course, neither here nor there.
Well, a shorter answer to that original question is her white father got her the job.
Oh, okay. But that's the thing, is
he white?
Yeah, you haven't seen her dad?
Her last name is Stenberg. There's
I didn't know that.
It was a joke. It was a joke. It was a joke.
Her father was Jamal Stenberg, I believe.
Jamal? Did you say Jamal Shenberg?
Her dad, who's a high-level executive.
Oh, Jamal is such a white name now. Like, yeah.
The irony of her even saying that is, well, kind of like Little Platoon said, they want to change everything and right all these wrongs that have happened. This was not the case for the Acolyte, her role. It was not the case of, well, you know, they auditioned everybody and she just really stood out. She was the best person for the role, blah, blah, blah. This was made from first conception, from concept art with her in mind. Her face was all of the concept art. And Leslie Headland brought it to her and said, I've been working on this for 2 years with you in mind. I really want you to play this. It'll ruin my day if you don't play this character. Like, this was not an audition, nothing like that. She was given this role. The self-described gay, black, non-binary, radical feminist, right, was just given this role. Not had to audition, nothing. Didn't have to work for it, just given the role.
Yeah, I wouldn't believe she got it on talent, because I saw her performance and I liked her as Rue in the Hunger Games. I'm actually surprised that it was the same.
That's the girl?
Yeah, I hope we get to see her die in this too.
But the way she delivered her lines, it's like, no, it's so bad. There's no way she got this on pure talent. I don't know what happened, but it wasn't because of her level of performance. But there were actually good actors in it, but they have been downgraded because to meet the level of quality of the writing and the dialogue, it's really sad.
Actually, there's one good actor in it. Everybody else is really bad.
Like Trinity, like she's a great actress.
Well, okay, but she dies in 3 minutes. But yeah,
exactly.
you're right.
But even her line delivery, the way, yes, my child, the way she delivered that.
What was that? And a butter knife. And a butter knife. I love verbal. It's like, I mean, because we just saw in Ahsoka, you know, we go from having Qui-Gon Jinn, Liam Neeson's Qui-Gon Jinn, to getting stabbed in the gut and dying, to Ahsoka, where you get stabbed, blow your spine out, and, you know, you're fine half an hour later, to Carrie-Ann Moss, a Jedi Master in this, getting killed by a butter knife.
Yeah, I put a tweet out like Tuesday, and I was baked, man. Like I put it out as a joke, right? Like I just smoked a bunch of weed, and I was like, okay, let me put this out, and it's at 5 million views. Like people are like fighting over this, man. I'm like, guys, it wasn't that serious. I just wanted to point out how stupid this is.
I loved it. I put one out, and it was I never had views on a Twitter, but it bugged me when I saw, I think it was episode 2, I had called up Ryan. I was like, Ryan, has there ever been a fat Jedi? Look, I go up and down in weight. I've been fat, I've been skinny, I've been fit, but I'm like, I've never read in anything, I've never seen anything, because they have to train. They got to do flips and shit. But you had that guy, and I'm like, okay, well, Disney has now broken the glass ceiling for body positivity. Say hello to Jedi Padawan Chunky Carbonara.
Yoda said that size matters not. He wasn't just talking about small people, right? It's fat people too.
They're calling it Jedi-beaties now. So
he may as well have had a donut in his hand. They clearly were emulating deadbeat cops at the local precinct of Jedi. Like, what is that? And So bad.
I'm gonna motion we start calling him Obi-Wan Cannoli. I think that's
Like, are they saying there's a Jedi temple on every single planet of the galaxy? Is that what
no.
they're
So
trying to say?
Well, no, there's not a Jedi temple on every single planet. However, especially like back then, they did have outposts. They had other little places because they would patrol different sectors of the galaxy.
This is just the local.
You know, ironically enough, the reason they had to do that is because it didn't take just 3 hours to go from Coruscant to anywhere in the fucking galaxy. Like, they're portraying in every single. There's no sense of scale or scope or anything like that in current Disney Star Wars. It should not take 6 hours to go from Coruscant to the other end of the galaxy.
It's the Rings of Power, quick
a week,
travel.
10 days. But they did have that because they wanted to have Jedi in different sectors around the galaxy to provide rapid response, help the local government, help authorities, especially back during this time frame. But they weren't too, I guess, clear, delineate that out in the show at all. So it's probably a surprise for a lot of people.
Well, they don't know anything about Star Wars, so it doesn't shock me that they wouldn't know that.
Well, they seem as overzealous cops. That's clearly what they were trying to. With the title card, it said that it indicated that they don't want other people to use the Force, that they weren't protectors from the Sith. They didn't even mention that. I forget what it said, that it was only a few can learn the Force in secret or risk discovery by the Jedi. And it makes it sound like they don't allow people to learn the ways of the Force. They didn't talk about the dark side of the Force, no, specifically Force using, that you can only be or learn the Jedi code. And that's not true within the lore either. Other Force using groups did exist. That was very, very strange that they are made out to be these police that are policing other people about how you need to use the Force. This is the way you do it. I haven't seen episode 3, but it sounds like that's what it's.
This reminds me of old timers speaking with the second Star Trek movie with Kirk's son. You military men, the Federation is just this, big colonial space police, and same kind of. I seem like there's a similar kind of dynamic here, but the time is much more. First of all, in that movie, he learns his lesson. He sees that his dad and the Federation are really cool. They're okay colonialists, but Jedi is. I mean, I think there's an underlying anti-colonial message here. And it fits, you might say, well, Ron, everything, if you're a hammer, everything's a nail.
Right.
These days in culture, and it's the only reason I think I'm on this program, everything is a nail. Everything is political, and everything is about upsetting and subverting the systems. So, as you guys, as the clips show, every time one of these, whether it's a show or whether it's a movie, it's always easy to find the director, the writer, the actors, and or any of them talking about how they're going to upset fan expectations, how they're going to give it a different spin. That's subversive. The premise that all of them have is that they can continue to do so indefinitely because there's so much goodwill built into these brands that they can never destroy them. And it turns out they're wrong.
But let me ask you something. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, to me, one of the first premises of the show that they started out with were, hey, we want to show everybody that the Jedi are actually the bad guys. Okay, that they abuse their power. They're the reason that so much in the galaxy is wrong. And if you want to tell a story from maybe a normal citizen perspective or even the Sith perspective, obviously you're going to bring a lot of their motivations into it. But the problem is, I feel like they're doing it with almost like malice in their hearts to try to show the Jedi are actually evil people. And that's why you're seeing them invade people's minds so much in that first episode. Well, when they needed to. Conveniently, all the times where it would have actually been appropriate or helped them to do so, they didn't do that.
Right.
For reasons, I suppose. But that's what they're setting up. They're setting up that, hey, the Sith are justified. A lot of these people are justified because the Jedi are the real bad guys. And it's not even a new or edgy concept to say, hey, the Jedi are flawed. It's literally what the prequels were about.
But that's the Sith argument, though, correct? That's the Sith argument. That's not the
It's not strictly just the Sith argument. It is, as Ryan said, it is the prequels argument as well. But there's a sort of subtle but important difference, which is that the Jedi in the prequels, they are aloof and they are arrogant and they are disconnected, but they're not actually evil. And actually, they're shown to be so scared of overstepping their mark in sort of galactic politics that it holds them back from taking on Palpatine until it's too late to stop him. They're very careful about not being seen to do the sort of overreach that this show is showing them going around the galaxy doing on a day-by-day basis. I think if the Jedi from the Acolyte were in the prequels, you wouldn't have had a Palpatine problem because the Jedi would have been mind-wiping everyone left, right, and center.
Right,
Yeah,
I agree.
and like when you look at the Jedi did fail, right? That's the reason we saw Palpatine eventually able to take them down. One of the reasons they failed was they got far too committed and connected to being aligned with the government as opposed to the actual will of the Force and things like that. And maybe to give a little bit of good faith, which I will attempt to do, maybe they're trying to show, because you saw the green character Vernestra, Master Vernestra, you saw her. They were super concerned with their appearance and how they look to everybody and how it would look if a scandal got out like this or that. Maybe you could justify, hey, this is a step down that type of path where they are super worried about the politics of the galaxy as opposed to doing what's actually right or wrong based on what the Force is telling them.
But isn't this supposed to be at how it originally was sold? We're supposed to see the Jedi at the height of their power before the fall. I mean,
that's what the High Republic is in general.
Right. Is this
towards
what you
the end
see?
of the High Republic? Yeah.
But I mean, does that come across to you? Like, to me, when I first watched the first episode, chime in anybody who wants, it reminded me of a Murder, She Wrote episode. Like, there was no
Don't
investment.
slander Murder, She Wrote.
I'm saying it's like you didn't
It's an
know.
insult to that.
They didn't take us. They didn't introduce us. Like, Carrie Ann Moss dies within the first 4 minutes. Like, why does anybody care? Like, you didn't get to meet anybody or.
It was so crazy.
This show was marketed all wrong, man. Like they made it seem like it was this big murder mystery, right? And then we find out that, hey, we solved the mystery in the first 5 minutes. So now what?
Exactly.
The way they hyped up Carrie Ann Moss too, she was so heavy in the marketing. And I remember one promo where she was saying how happy her husband and kids were that she was a part of this. And I just keep thinking about that. Now that was short-lived, even though there's going to be a flashback, but still that had to sting. But yeah, the murder mystery. I remember like Grace Randolph was saying how hyped she was, intrigued by the murder mystery. It's literally a murder mystery with no mystery. I don't understand why it was hyped so much like that.
That's
it's over in like 20 minutes.
Have like investigations, which the Jedi don't do, and they don't tend to get solved with random dreams that just give everybody the answer because the plot ran out of other things to do. It's not actually a murder mystery. Someone was murdered. We know who it is, and the dream tells the rest of them who it is. Wow.
And then why didn't they use their power to find out who, like all that, what is it, Master Soul, the Squid Game guy, I forgot his name already. So why didn't he just go to May? What was her name? Oh no, OSHA. I found those names horrible. I'm like, OSHA, Occupational Safety and Hazard, and her sister is FEMA. I mean, it's like you can't.
Yeah. And Mayday.
Wait, hold on. Did they really name the Korean guy Soul?
Soul, yeah. You got it.
Okay.
What? But so it's like I was like, why didn't Soul just do the Jedi mind trick that they, like ask her, figure it out, the whole thing. We know who it is. Cool. That's it.
The thing that he does in episode 2 to her twin sister.
Right.
Yeah.
I do
just do that.
I do think that it's obvious that they're really going to try to rely heavily on, hey, we're going to subvert your expectations. Hey, we're going to promote Carrie Ann Moss and kill her in the first episode. Hey, look at this big mystery we've got. I've heard Leslie Headland before mention that all these things that she was inspired by, and clearly you just see like direct ripoffs of things in the show already. She also did say Fight Club.
Fight Club, Frozen, and Kill Bill.
So I think there is a chance that because as of yet, we've never seen anyone see May and Asha actually together at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would not be surprised if that ends up trying to be a twist if they pull a Tyler Durden type of thing.
They do have the line, don't they?
No.
Always one, but born is two, I think is the line from episode 1. So there'll be some fuckery that goes on with that. I mean, there's the one scene in the second episode where one of them does shoot at the other one, but I guess nobody else actually sees that. So that would be bad enough for them to think it's a good idea.
Spoiler alert, episode 3 answers that question.
Oh, really? Well, there you go.
Yep, there you go. No, they're both
gonna
together.
like the answer?
Oh no, that's where they're born from a coven of lesbian witches who tell them basically. I'm now paraphrasing. The force is patriarchal. It's called the thread. That's the real force. Everything else is shit.
My question is not were they born twins, but do you see them interact
together? Yeah,
in present day.
Yeah, because the Jedi show up and they want to test them, and that's
Or
the
more
whole thing.
importantly, do you see them? More importantly, do you not just see them in the same team together, but do you see them with other characters interacting? Because that's the trick of Fight Club.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you.
They're constantly interacting with each other. You just
nobody
never
sees
see
it.
them exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you see them in with the mother.
You're talking about when they're children, right?
Children. Yeah.
That's not what I'm talking about.
You're talking about as the adult. Okay, I got you. Oh,
yeah.
got it. I see what you're saying. Like one killed the other, and
or maybe they could go for the spin that this really affected her, and she had some kind of psychotic break, and this ended up being like her alternative personality after this. Just some stupid shit like
Could
that. You know what I
happen.
mean? I would not be
Exactly,
surprised if that's something they tried to twist us with, because they did ruin the twist of the twins so early in the show. But I don't know.
could be. I just don't think they're that imaginative in the Lucasfilm writers' room.
I think we're trying to write a better story right now. I think
Very easy.
we're like compensating, because I don't think she's that clever.
No,
I don't think Leslie Helen is that clever, because that sounds like a better show.
Yeah.
Well, it would be if you keep from the reference of she's just copying shit.
The Filoni playbook.
Yeah.
But there's no Yoda. Like, I would have started it, even if you're going to play for nostalgia to pull old fans, like go to the Jedi Council, show Yoda. Even, what's his name? Y'all know, Anna knows better, and Ryan. The guy who was in the Phantom Menace, Plo something? Plo Koon, because wasn't he alive 100 years before Phantom Menace?
Yeah, he would be alive.
Yeah.
I don't know if he would be on the council by then, but he should be alive.
Bring in some people that see Yoda. He's 900 plus years old.
You really want Yoda to be ruined by association with this show?
I do not. But I'm saying from the perspective of how you could have made the story better, how you could have tried.
But again, that ties into George Lucas, right? They don't want that. They want you to forget about Lucas,
right? Because at first, good point.
That's one of the first things my gut told me they were going to do with the show is have a Yoda cameo to get people to clap. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not anything necessarily of substance, just like a little appearance here or there. But I don't know. I'm glad he's not in the show. I'm really glad. Hopefully that holds true for the rest of the episodes. But so far, I'm glad he's not there.
Absolutely. Ron, I wanted to ask all these companies, all these.
George, real quick, before you do, I think Ryan's got to go, and we should find the super chats before you go to the next topic, if that's okay.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you, Ryan, so much for coming.
Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't stay long, but I got my own stream and stuff I got to get ready for. But awesome hanging out and talking some Star Wars and some Hollywood stuff with all these fine people on the panel. Thanks for inviting me, George.
Thank you.
I hope you guys have a good stream.
You too. Thank you.
All right, see you guys.
Take care.
Okay, let's cover the super chats real quick, and then I'll get to Ron. Mexican Iron Man.
Yeah, hold on. I'm just not a YouTuber learning how to do this stuff.
Oh, yeah. You're so inexperienced, such an amateur. Prof. Sheila became a YouTube member. Thank you very much, Professor Sheila. We're going to have a great time this week. Chipmunk of Vengeance, member for 2 months. Disney should be checked for insanity. They try the same trick over and over and wonder why they lose viewership and subscriptions. Attacking the fans and acting like they're stupid doesn't pay off. I think at this point they're purposely attacking the fans. It doesn't. Anything else doesn't make sense to me. Thank you, Chipmunk of Vengeance. And we got Dark Hierophant for $2. Marked safe from watching The Acolyte. Gotcha. Gloria Cruz became a YouTube member. Welcome aboard, Gloria. The membership stream is coming up this week. Olaf, my friend, member for 5 months. It's been 5 months already. Yeah, because I started streaming in January. George, another epic collection of guests. They're awesome, aren't they? Thank you, Olaf. Hopefully you have a great weekend. Aaron Charman became a YouTube member. Again, welcome aboard, Aaron. Can't wait till, I think it's either going to be Wednesday or Saturday. I will see you there. And we have Steel Leg of History has been a member for 5 months. Be blessed. My new leg will be done soon. Can't wait to see your leg. I love your gaming streams. And if you haven't checked out Steel Leg of History, go to his YouTube channel. He games, I think, almost every day. We got Andrew Honeycutt for $5. The Tolkien Legendarium is timeless because he poured his heart and soul into it and drew upon personal experience. The gate should be guarded. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, he started writing in the bloody trenches of World War I. Rings of Power is a disgrace, and hopefully Warner Brothers will do him justice with The Hunt for Gollum. I don't know how when it's only a page of material, but hopefully they will. And we got Red for $2. No homo? Is that love? No. Oh, I get what you're saying. Thank you, No Red. Man of War 665, Neighbor of the Beast member for 5 months. How about no? That's his answer for pretty much everything when it comes to Disney. And I agree. John Kokoza for $10. Hey, John, going to see Two Towers in theaters today. It's back in the theaters. I thought it was last year. Return of the King tomorrow. Fathom Events released all 3 films. Extended cuts nationwide this weekend. Theater was packed yesterday for Fellowship. Perfect films. Absolutely. I saw them when they were last in. Nini for 30. I don't know what currency that is. Anybody know? I have no idea. 30?
Is it Indian? No.
It's crypto.
Yeah. Oh, crypto. Nini for 30 crypto. Thank you, Nini. Thank you, Anna. Dark Hierophant for $2. Leslie H. is the bib for Tuna to Weinstein the Hut. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Andrew Honeycutt for $5. The fact that an actor like Viggo is apprehensive about reprising his role should be an indication of his integrity. Perhaps we need more of that. We're going to talk about that subject pretty soon. Thank you for that, Andrew. Olaf for €6. George, for me, it feels like Kathleen Kennedy's attempt to make the Force female, as she said years ago. This is an attempt to reset GL Star Wars for their audience. Yeah. To me, yeah, George Lucas. Yeah, absolutely. George Lucas Star Wars for the audience. To me, this reminded me of like Darth Menopause. That's as close as I could come to. I mean, it's just wretched. That's why I think it's intentional. Andrew Honeycutt for $5. Current writers and showrunners stand on the shoulders of giants. And it seems to me that they lack the humility to accept it. You're right. And they also lack any of the experience. One of the things she did, that Hedlund did, was she looked for a writer that knew absolutely nothing about Star Wars, none of its history, hadn't watched the films. And I think one comment she made was when she talked to the writer who she had already known, she's like, well, what do you know about Chewbacca? She's like, is that the guy in the furry outfit who loves the gay droid? I mean, that was something like that. I'm paraphrasing. That was her extent of Star Wars and R2-D2. And we have Bones, a Wise Ready for $5. If it's a Fight Club twist, that's going to make the Jedi so much more incompetent by not checking the flight logs of that ship she's a mechanic on. Yeah, they call them like mech treks or something, where she had a campfire in space. A lot of people have made a big deal about it because it's like, you have explosions in Star Wars, but never before have you had an actual like campfire in space. Nuts. Licking Bacon or something like that for $2. If anything, they would bring Yaddle in. Yeah, I could see Yaddle coming in. I don't think they're going to do that. Graph Web for $2. For the love of God, cancel Disney Plus. Yes, amen. Cancel Disney Plus and let them know why. We got Mr. Buttcrack Media. My good friend is back. Gifted 5. George the Giant Slayer memberships. Thank you, Mr. Buttcrack Media. You're always such a great supporter, and it helps keep the lights on. We got Talitha 34 gifted 10 George the Giant Slayer memberships. Talitha, you're like the producer of the day. Thank you very much, Talitha. You, Buttcrack, Mr. Buttcrack Media. And Jim Alaska. I hope everything's going well with the family, Jim, and you're doing great. Hopefully, you're going to be at one of the meetups this year. Gifted 20 George the Giant Slayer memberships. Pick them up so you can be at the next membership stream. Thank you, my friend. That's it. We're all caught up. Now, what I wanted to ask Ron is, with all of I'm really surprised that there haven't been more lawsuits for all of these didn't earn it policies, like the DEI that Hollywood embraces. Because it seems racist to me, just on its basis. Like, we're not going to hire you because of talent. We're going to hire you because of your color. You don't get a job.
So this is something I have discussed before. It's a great observation. The problem with discrimination lawsuits in the Hollywood context is that when on the talent side, now the business side is one thing, but on the talent side, it's so damn subjective that I think it's extremely difficult to make a prima facie case that someone would have gotten a job, writer, director, actor, but for racial discrimination, because it's a completely arbitrary, and I mean, not completely. Obviously, there are people who are proven performers, but at this level where we're dealing with this mediocrity versus that mediocrity, I think it would be a very difficult case. But Gina's case is the closest that I think anyone has come so far to crossing that line, although it's not about discrimination, it's about political discrimination. I mean, there is a sexual discrimination claim in there, but I think if that's all she had, it would not have been the lawsuit would not have been filed. But sooner or later, it's going to have to happen. But keep in mind, Hollywood, in terms of law and regulation, is always the exception.
Okay.
Accounting practices, I mean, they do what they want, and California and the federal courts in California shrug their shoulders. So yes, that's something to keep an eye on. Sooner or later, I think there is going to be a break. Someone is going to take a run at it and succeed, but it's not a case I would take on a contingency.
Okay.
It's just too long of a shot given the culture.
I don't know how it applies to business, but when it comes to film, this I know. Studios have always been able to literally get away with that by casting for a certain type, right? Like you'll go in for a read and they'll say, hey, we want a redhead, right? Or we want a blonde, or we want someone who is, for lack of a better word, a dwarf, right? So they've been able to do that and legally get away with it because it's for the role, right? So that's how they skate around the DEI stuff, is by saying, hey, we wrote this particular part for this particular type, so it's no discrimination because that's what we're casting for, right? It's real shaky. It's a real shaky situation. Now, when it comes to actual businesses, that's something totally different, I think.
But Verbal, you're making I thought you were going to bring this home by saying where we're moving into a world where studios are saying, and this is something a lot of you guys have pointed out, oh yeah, hobbits, they're black hobbits, there are lesbian dwarves. When you're saying that there should no longer that representation in and of itself is a casting criterion, that really undercuts your ability to say we need someone to be six feet tall. So that is probably going to come back to bite them.
Oh no, like I said, it's very shaky. You know what I mean? Like there's no definite. I'd be hard pressed to think that you would be able to bring a successful lawsuit against a studio based on this. You know what I mean?
It's an uphill battle. I agree with you.
It's hard to prove. It's a very hard thing to prove.
Well, isn't it basically legalized racism at this point?
Yeah, but you could have said that back in the 80s when they were like, oh, we need, this, we need a, I mean, let's be real. I mean, in the 80s, it was the diversity wasn't as
of course, sexy,
right?
young, whatever, or yeah.
Again, how do you prove that they're being racist, right?
When they come out in those interviews,
if they're saying that the script calls for this.
No, I'm not talking about the script. I'm talking verbal. When they come out and they're doing these interviews and they're like, we want to make sure that no white people are hired or no Asians are hired.
Okay, but we're talking about 2024. Our president literally said he wants to hire a black woman, right? And he did it. And a black woman is now our vice president, right? Based on nothing.
What are you complaining?
Based on nothing but her being black. And everybody said it was okay.
You could
Right?
try to apply the same standard back to them. I mean, you could apply the Ibram Kendi standard, which is essentially to say if it produces racially disparate outcomes, that can only be because of racism. I don't much like the idea of having to sink to their level to fight them, but that might well be where it goes. Because there isn't a huge amount of legal option to actually challenge this sort of thing, even though it is discriminatory on its face. It's positive discrimination, not negative discrimination, and that's traditionally viewed differently.
And let's be real here. This only applies to straight white people, right? They're the only people you could be racist against. Right?
Yeah, that's what's happened today.
Racism only applies to straight white people. As far as, it being okay.
No. Asians.
Yeah, and it goes beyond racism as well.
Well, light-skinned Asians, not dark-skinned Asians.
Yeah, Asians loaded term.
Well, I have this other clip I wanted to play before we wrap up the Acolyte. Anna, are you feeling okay to stick around for this? I think she's away for a moment.
Nah, I'm fine. What is
Okay,
it?
just want to make sure we're going to play this real quick as we wrap this up.
I want to ask you both because this is, I would say, arguably the gayest Star Wars, I think, by a considerable margin. And are you excited about that? Are you
Not the
bracing
gayest
yourself?
Star Wars. Not the
It's pretty gay. Let's be honest. Leslie, how do you feel?
Am I gay?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, no, I know
Yeah.
you are gay, but I'm asking, are you excited about putting this, this is going to be a talking point.
Is it going to be a talking point?
I'm sure so.
Because nerds are gay.
Well, some nerds are very not gay and are very threatened by gay
Well, that's
stuff.
true. But
Yeah.
in my world, nerds are gay.
Was this the fun element of
No, I don't think so. And yet people have told me that it's the gayest Star Wars, and I frankly,
you're offended
into it. No.
See, you know what's funny is growing up, it's like didn't have the word as nerd. We accepted anybody who loved what we loved. Like there was I didn't care what color you were, what sex you were. It's like we love comics. You like D&D. You like Time Bandits, Dragon Slayer, Star Wars. Cool. It's this breaking out, this identity politics, which just drives me crazy. It's like talk about the story, but there is no story. I just see this as a vehicle. Kind of like a giant soapbox.
Well, I love what Star Wars Theory said when he said, back in the day, being a Star Wars nerd, we would have loved for girls to have been into Star Wars. Like that would have been cool. Like that would have been a great thing if girls were into Star Wars like we were. But there weren't back then because it wasn't cool to be a nerd back then.
No. Hey, I didn't see that. I gotta go look at that.
I'm a unicorn. Anna and I are unicorns. It's just there's no succeeding. Like I think pandering is where creativity goes to die, and we can set. I as a kid seeing the prequels, I didn't like the really jokiness part of those, and I feel like that I was being pandered to as a kid, and I didn't like that. That I liked the science fiction-y fantasy part of it. I loved the Darth Maul was the best. That's what I liked. I liked the more philosophical elements, but I didn't like Jar Jar. I'm sorry.
No Jar Jar.
But I just didn't like being pandered to as a child, and I could sense it. I was reading Dune not too long after that, but so that's where I was. So it's like, that's a little too silly for me in those parts. But too, as a woman too, I don't like being pandered to. And again, it's not about creativity. It's just laziness. They feel like they can just stick a woman in there or whatever minority and feel like that's enough. Well, we deserve better. Everyone in this situation deserves better. Fans deserve something of quality, that lives up to the source material, but also general audiences deserve good stories. And that attracts everybody. That's open to everybody.
Amen. I absolutely agree. There was a discussion. We talked about it before in the last few months, like what happened to the Hollywood movie star, like how many are left. And Jordan Peterson just happened to have this discussion with Dennis Quaid, and it's one of the best answers I've ever heard. I've heard a lot of people make this. Where is it? It's right here. It was interesting in this time that we're going into. Elaine, by the way, you were spot on. Anytime you pander, you're just killing the story. They don't care about storytelling.
And on top of
And I
that,
think-
you're killing the story, and it's a story that lots of people really like, and then you're associating it with a group that you pretend you're trying to uplift. It's a very bad idea to say, I'm trying to stand and represent the gays, and I'm going to make the gayest Star Wars ever, and it's going to ruin Star Wars. And so, of course, you've made the association with the gays, so people will come away thinking, oh, the gays have ruined Star Wars. And that gets people kind of angry. Not a fan of that sort of approach. Like, you have to write a good story first. You can't do if you ruin it and you attach a minority's name to it, that minority is not benefiting. They're actually being harmed by that approach.
Are you suggesting Bros didn't open up incredible new vistas for gay rom-com?
Shockingly, no. Somehow it didn't catch on.
But you know what? You make a good point. Again, well, I'm going to ask, does it go back? Is this being done intentionally? Because any minority group, any group that they put a tag like this was made for X or this was made for Y or this is, it seems like it comes across as a negative for that group.
Well, it's clear that Acolyte was made for the gays. Let's just be honest here. I mean, it is. I mean, look, there is zero masculinity in this show. Zero. Name one masculine character. I mean, it's definitely not Cuckboy McGee, the guy with the Shillmonger haircut. Cord, or whatever his name
There's no
is.
masculinity in it, then it's not made for the gays, it's made for the lesbos.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I'm sorry. The LGBT. I'm just saying it's not made for. It's because the thing is,
The
women
director is lesbian headland, so
women actually like masculinity in their movies, right? You know how many women told me how much they hated Wakanda Forever because it lacked the masculinity of the first movie.
Of Avengers?
Women actually want that in their films.
Well, that's why they had what was his name who played Captain America, all coming all buffed, and I mean that was for women.
Of course. Chris Helmsworth with his
The
shirt
reason
off.
Aquaman made $1 billion was because of Jason Momoa's abs.
Yeah, because the writing sucked. I mean, yeah, it was Jason Momoa. Well, Star Wars, great. You know more about Star Wars than any of us. I was going to ask you one last thing. They had this scene in episode 2, right, where this assassin is going around killing basically the Jedi she blames. So there is a Jedi master who's been in a meditation for 10 years. So they show him.
This is the balding, like, white guy.
Yeah. He's like levitating for 10 years, hasn't spoken to anybody. She tries to attack him, does the whole thing she did to Carrie-Anne Moss, but he's got like a force shield. She can't get through it. She goes to her fixer guy. He's like, they come up with a plan where she basically takes his poison, breaks back into the Jedi temple after breaking into it once. So all the Jedi are retarded because, they're like, oh, somebody broke in. Oh, yeah. We just open the doors because she just an hour later breaks right back in. I'm like, where's the force? It's like, don't y'all feel this shit? And she comes back in. This time, she takes this little vial of poison. And again, I'm paraphrasing. Platoon probably remembers better. Where she says something like, I know that you feel guilty for the past or you feel deep down inside bad. Take this and absolve yourself. He like wakes up. It's like, okay, takes the poison and dies. Like, aren't Jedi supposed to like not have attachment to emotions or guilt or the past?
Yeah, you'd think if anyone would be suffering from guilt, it would be Yoda and Obi-Wan, after their epic failure. But this is being written by a woman that doesn't know anything about Star Wars, so that doesn't shock me that it was that terrible. I'm hearing more and more. I'm really glad I'm not watching this.
I'm just curious if there was ever a case like that because I just don't know Star Wars like you do.
Well, what specific aspect of this? Incompetence or somebody offing themselves?
Offing themselves. I never heard of a Jedi. I've read 4 of the books. I've never read anywhere where they committed,
Well, I mean, I can't think of any time somebody's just committed suicide, but like sacrificing yourself is a Jedi thing. But
right.
What did he do? Why did he feel so guilty?
We're trying. I think that's the thing the show goes on to because he was involved in something to do with the origin story of the twins, and we know, and the show gives us all these hints that something bad, and the Jedi did something bad when it comes to the origin of the twins. He's evidently so cut up by this that not only does he off himself when given the chance, he spent the last 10 years floating in permanent meditation, not speaking to anyone because he feels so depressed and guilty. So for 10 years, he's just sat there floating around, not speaking. And then one of the twins turns up and puts a little vial of poison on the floor, and he takes it willingly and just offs himself. It's really optimistic, and you'd really love it if you watched it. It's great fun.
Oh.
He basically died from white guilt.
No,
yeah, that's what it's coming off as.
He's the white guilt Jedi.
That was so bad. Honestly, what a horrible message. This is supposed to be aimed for children. And the good guys are just like, this is the solution to his guilt. I mean, how can a Jedi, it seems so antithetical to what the Jedi stand for, how they view the Force is life. And for someone to, if they can see the good in others, if they can see that no one could be past redemption, well, how could someone see that in themselves? That did what he did, was it really that bad? Because I don't feel like it would have been malicious, whatever happened. That we're
Also, how
gonna
come the
see.
other Jedi didn't kill themselves, right? Because if they all were part of the same, situation that happened, the other Jedi were fine living their lives, right? Why was he the only one, right, in isolation for 10 years?
It just seems so like just a step above what they did to Luke. Just someone who was just, instead of trying to work towards redemption, if they did feel bad, to work good in the galaxy, to be a force of peace and protection and try to redeem themselves, he's just holed himself in a way for 10 years until she just comes along. And I don't know why he needed poison to do it. He has a lightsaber. So there's just so many things as a part of that just don't make sense as far as from a storytelling perspective, but also, again, just so anti-Jedi. It's really offensive on every level. It really bothered me, actually.
Did they burn his body?
No.
They
So
didn't
maybe
show it.
he's not dead. Maybe he did. Maybe that was like a potion or something that did something else. Like, do they say that he's dead?
Yeah.
And they didn't burn him?
At least not yet. Not that they've shown.
Yeah, they didn't. It was a chase scene, I think, right after that.
Yeah,
So
that
they
was
didn't
pretty much
show
it. But he just wakes up and is like, okay, or something along those lines.
Well, it could have been a way to like smuggle him out of the temple, was making them think that he's dead. Because if you don't see them burn him, then
Yeah. No, they didn't
I don't
show
think that
that.
they're that smart, though.
No, I don't.
Or why not just let her kill him the first time she was there, right? Like if he was that guilty about what he did to her. Like I'm sorry, this is a dumb show.
Also, she's supposed to be killing them, but she didn't even do anything that time.
No, but
She just made him feel guilty.
By the way, she is the
No,
worst
that's
assassin I have
insulting.
seen in any show that I have ever watched.
She posed verbal. Give me your greatest
Yeah,
shot.
she poses very well. That's about it.
Give me your greatest. I mean, whatever the hell.
She's killing them without weapons as well, right? And so she did. In the second instance, she does kill him without a weapon. She puts the poison on the floor and he kills himself, which is technically completing the instruction. But it doesn't count because my theory for this is just that the show couldn't actually reveal that the Sith were involved this early. So it had to have an excuse for the Jedi not to be able to use lightsabers in order that their assassins don't use lightsabers. Because if the assassins come along with red lightsabers, everybody knows what's going on, and then the mystery angle is broken. So you have to create this nonsense rule about, that weapons can't kill Jedi except where they do. You have to kill them in spirit except where you do that and it doesn't work. And she
or a fruit knife.
I mean, are they
Fruit
trying?
knife, yeah.
Why doesn't he just teach her like force lightning or force choke? Is that where that's going? If that's what he meant, this mysterious Milo Ren, wish.com figure.
I think Star Wars is officially Nerd Cookies. I think it's officially as dead as the movie stars. I really do at this point. The way they've done it, it's a joke. But Peterson talked to Dennis Quaid, and he had a perfect answer for why, what's going on with the movie stars and why they existed and where they are now.
Movie stars, like going up and really until the 80s, 90s, true movie star, you wouldn't do a talk show on TV. You would avoid TV like the plague.
Right.
Jack Nicholson, you would never see him on a talk show. He'd do one interview in a prestigious magazine, whether it be Time, Playboy,
Right.
whatever it was.
Right.
That's
part of that protection of exclusivity. Yeah.
And you would, some guy would spend a couple of days with him or something, but you really wouldn't. There was a mystery to him.
Yeah.
So that when you went to the theater, really what makes a movie star is you go to the theater, they are a mystery. You don't know too much really about their life.
Yeah.
So
You don't want to
imprint
either.
your own life on them.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
You see them for something inside you.
Yeah.
And that's what makes a movie star.
Well, you actually don't want to know much about the personal life of an actor.
And now it's like, well, it got to be that you just do everything.
Yeah.
About everybody.
Yeah.
And
that brings them down to earth, and that's not good if you're a star.
Well, it doesn't create mystery.
Yeah, right.
Put it that way.
So what do y'all think? You think is that what has killed the movie star besides bad
I think
movies?
he's totally right.
Okay.
I think he's absolutely right.
That's a big part of it, yeah. And the reason for that is the things we talk about every week, right? I mean, the fact that social media has become so prevalent, and these movie stars have instant access to be able to show their asses everywhere, and you know, a lot of them are overexposed, and I don't just mean their body parts like Lizzo or anything like that, but I mean, you know, overexposed in a way that we get just bombarded with them, and we don't get any natural stars anymore. The very few random ones that do happen are like right now, I'd say like Jenna Ortega and
Sydney Sweeney.
Sydney
Yep.
Sweeney's getting that it girl thing going for her right now. Timothy Chalamet's kind of become a natural star of his own. I mean, other than
Glenn
that,
Powell.
though,
Glenn
yeah.
Powell.
Otherwise, yeah, there's just not so many anymore that, you know, you could point to and say, yeah, that's a movie star, right? We used to have Will Smiths. We used to have Eddie Murphys. We used to have, you know, Harrison Fords. We used to have Sally Fields. We used to have Julia Roberts. We used to have all these people where I'm going to see the new, you know, Julia Roberts movie, or the new Sandra Bullock movie, or the new, you know, Burt Reynolds movie, or whatever it was at the time, right? It wasn't necessarily what the movie was. It was like, I'm going to see the new Schwarzenegger or the new Sly film, right? Unless it was a specific sequel, then didn't matter. We were just going to see what Clint Eastwood was up to this time, right? Or Michael J. Fox or whoever. And that was the way the game worked. And he's not wrong. Like, the air of mystery's gone. This ability to sell a film on the idea that I just want to go see Mel Gibson or Johnny Depp or whoever in a movie, right? Like, that appeal is gone, because I don't care about any of these people anymore. I don't care what Chris Hemsworth's doing unless he's playing Thor. I don't give a crap. Right. Like, and even then I could care less anymore. So like, that's where we've kind of gotten with a lot of this stuff. And no, he's not wrong at all. And he's one of the few guys that has like a level head of himself anymore in Hollywood. And that's just so rare and few. And he doesn't get a whole lot of roles, which is sad. And I think that speaks to his politics and religious beliefs. But yeah, we all know how that goes.
Yeah, you cannot be based in Hollywood at all. Like, you know, Chris
Nope.
Gore put out a tweet last week where he just said, if you're not part of the club, you're not working. And it's true. You have to be part of the club or you don't get the parts.
What about Denzel? He seems based.
Well, you have to understand Denzel is respected amongst the Black community, and because of that, that gives him a lot of leeway, right? To say, and if you think about it, Denzel never comes out as I'm conservative, liberal. He's just common sense, right?
Yeah.
And he talks in that Denzel way where he just, everything he says makes sense, right?
Just goes to church. He's like, I'm going to church every weekend. Like, I thought that right there, they would have been like, you're out of here.
No, but see, but how can they, right? Because otherwise they'll be racist,
Right.
if they try to pull that on him.
So who do y'all think is, in your opinions, movie stars? Who are the movie stars left? Denzel, Tom Cruise?
Tom Cruise.
Okay.
Tom Cruise.
Even them are
definitely.
not infallible, right? Like, I mean, when have you said the last time I'm going to see the new Denzel movie? No, I'm going to see, you know, the Equalizer 3, right? Like, now, like, that's what it is. They got to attach themselves to some sort of franchise. Even Tom Cruise couldn't keep Mission Impossible afloat at the end of the day. So like, we'll see how the next one does, but if
you're asking like who is still the $20 million actor
that you go to the movie for them.
I don't think that person exists anymore. I think the closest we have, and people may argue with me about this, I think the closest we have is Margot Robbie. I still think she puts butts in seats. Not just because of Barbie. I think she's just a draw.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I may be the lone voice in this one, but I don't know if I ever went to a movie just solely because an actor I liked was in it, or to just watch their entire filmography. I don't think I liked one particular actor like that much. Only if the movie itself intrigued me is when that's why I go to the movies. So I don't know about the whole like star thing, but
that might be part of the generation gap there though too. I wonder, Elaine, because I know you're a bit younger. So
I watch a lot of Tom Cruise movies. I love his action movies, and I love his sci-fi. He's been in some great. So I just watched Edge of Tomorrow.
Great film.
A few days ago. Loved it. Great film. Yeah, and he just happens to be in a lot of like stories that appeal to me. So,
but I'm just saying, because like as a kid, me and my friends and a lot of the people that I hung out with, like that was what we do. As soon as we would get into a certain actor or whatever, or even a musician or what have you, we'd dive into their catalog regardless. Like,
Yeah.
and sometimes we come across some stinkers, but that's how I know about some of these bad movies too. That's the thing. Like, if it wasn't for me checking out Jim Carrey's catalog, I wouldn't know of some of the crappy movies he made in Canada, for instance. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that.
Well, growing up, I mean, after I saw Arnold in Conan, I looked for any movie he was in, or Stallone. So that's kind of like what I think of.
I may
that's
be
the
more
last
like
era
with
where-
directors. I may feel like that more with directors, like going to see the new Christopher
Nolan.
Nolan movie or Denis
I agree.
Villeneuve. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I think I may lean more towards that.
Yeah, if it's like a Tarantino movie, I don't even need to know what it's about. I'm watching it.
The directors kind of did become the movie stars there for a while.
Well, it's because
in
you
that
can
era.
trust them to make a good film. Like,
Yeah.
so I obviously adore Henry Cavill, but his films aren't exactly the best, and it's not his fault.
I haven't seen I love Henry Cavill, but I haven't seen that one. I have bought it. The Gentleman one, the one by Guy Ritchie, the World War II
Well, see,
flick.
I
Is that
hate Guy Ritchie movies, so I haven't
Oh.
watched it yet either.
Oh, I love Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two
Who
Smoking.
did
That
Argyle?
movie with every fiber of my soul.
Okay. Tarantino, love Tarantino and Ritchie, but did you see the last Cavill one, Anna?
No.
Because you just
I've
don't
seen
watch any
clips
Guy.
of him in it. I haven't watched it because I don't
Gotcha.
like Guy Ritchie movies.
Platoon, who would you call a movie star today? Like traditional, old style, that is a draw that people just go to.
And I think that the draw factor is still there. I've also never gone to see a film just because of the person who was in it. It seems weird to me. I mean, John Wayne wasn't able to save the Western genre even when he was quite popular, for example. There will always come a point at which stars might get some people in seats, and there will be a consideration in what films you go to see. But it's not going to be the thing that determines what you go to see. I think nobody from the last 10 years, because the last 10 years has been sort of uniquely Marvel dominated, when the majority of the actors who came up were synonymous with the characters they were playing and actually became subsumed by the characters they were playing, to the point that everybody remembers Captain America probably more than they remember whichever Chris it was, Evans, who actually played him. Chris Evans then goes and does a shitty Ryan Johnson movie, and nobody really gives a damn. Robert Downey Jr. is probably the only person who came out of the Avengers era having become bigger than the character, or at least being able to transcend the character he played. He made Iron Man him, as opposed to becoming the character himself. And so you will still, get rave reviews for his performances in pretty much anything he's in, whether it's Oppenheimer or there's a new thing coming out, isn't there, where he's playing about 4 different parts. So I'd say he's probably quite a big draw, but I didn't grow up in the era when the movie star was as big as apparently it used to be. So I don't know how to compare them.
Okay. Well, we have this weekend, I think it's the 4th Bad Boys film, Bad Boys,
Ride or Die.
Ride or Die.
Yeah.
Well, before the weekend hit, you had a lot of projections that it was going to bomb at the box office. It was going to tank. And then as of yesterday, it was projected at $52 million. And you had John Nolte, who had already crapped on the film the whole week before. He had said, this is it. This is going to show you again how bad Hollywood is. He came out and he turned around. He's like, okay, Bad Boys Ride or Die is blowing the doors off the weekend box office with a projected $52 million domestic opening. What? Huh? But they told me streaming was killing movies, but they told me the pandemic took people out of the habit of going to movies, but they told me the strike killed the box office. So how is the movie succeeding? Now, is that because of Will Smith?
I don't know if it's just because of Will Smith, but I will say that, yeah, I just to go off of the first part of what you said there before we get into Bad Boys, like this whole idea that the movie theaters were dying and it's just the movies are going away and blah, 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 because of Furiosa. Stop and think about for a minute what this was all about. This was all about Furiosa, because just those few people in Hollywood just couldn't fathom or understand, and people in the media couldn't fathom or understand why people wouldn't possibly not want to go see a movie where the main character is not Mad Max when it's supposed to be a Mad Max saga, right? Just imagine that for a minute. Sure, the movie may be fun. Sure, it may be good by some people's standards, but it's literally a movie that's 10 years too late about a character that nobody really cared about. That replaced
I think they are dying, man, and I say that mainly because I go to the movies every week with Gore and Allen, and there was a time, man, where when a big movie came out, on that opening weekend, that opening night, those theaters were packed. I haven't seen a packed theater in probably 6 months. Like there's
There ain't been
something.
shit that people want to see since Dune.
But that's what I'm
and
saying.
Godzilla.
Like there's Hollywood is hurting. And
Godzilla -1.
My point is like, look at the stuff that did work, right? It's stuff that people would actually like to see. Dune, Godzilla
Sure.
and Kong. You can go back a little bit farther. Wonka did really great at the end
But
of last
those movies
year.
are few and far between, right?
Well, I don't think it's just that. I honestly think it's the price because when I go to the theater, so I live in Southern California, so everything is already expensive. And so for me, just to get a ticket to a regular movie is $29. If I want to go with my husband, that's over $50 plus tax. Then I have to drive there. Then, of course, we want something to drink. So it's like just $100 for
go to
two
the movies.
people to go see a movie. And then you get in the theater, you would expect, hey, everyone's here as a couple, so everyone here probably spent about $100. Maybe don't go on your fucking cell phone. And then you have to deal with people talking, people going on their phone because they can't turn off their phone for 2 hours. And so at my point, I'm like, well, I kind of have to review movies to do this YouTube thing. And I'm like, it's not even worth it to me. I don't care about the quality. I'd rather sit on my computer and watch, a shitty cam version because then at least I don't have to worry about other people ruining my experience. Because if I'm going to spend money, like I don't want it to be wasted by me getting annoyed by somebody else in the theater. And
Well-
I think a lot of people feel that way. Why would you go out, spend all this money on something just to have a bunch of teenagers on their cell phone? So just stay home on your couch.
That's an aspect of it, and the prices too.
Spot on.
But the other thing that I think is the bigger issue here, and this is the studio's fault, they're allowing the movies to go on video on demand way too quickly.
Yeah.
When you still have movies like Dune and stuff that are making money in theaters, why is that on streaming already?
And 6
It
weeks,
shouldn't
yeah,
be.
it was on digital demand.
It shouldn't be. And that's
Yeah.
the thing, is this the way Hollywood used to work? Sure, the movies would come and go, but there was a 6-month window before you'd see that thing on video.
Yeah.
Right. And if it was a hit, good luck. You're not going to see it till Christmas or later, probably, because Avatar ain't coming out this year, kids. You're going to have to wait till next year. That would just happen once in a while. We knew that stuff, and nobody had a real problem with it. But why would somebody waste their time and money and effort and all the things that you guys were just complaining about when we know in 36 days I can go see Furiosa on video on demand? In fact, it'll be on video on demand by the end of this month.
So
Why would I go see it when I know it's going to be on Twitter within 24 hours?
That too, or other
Right.
places. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But if you have something like Dune or Godzilla Kong or Godzilla -1 or this weekend Bad Boys, where people want to go see it on a premium, bigger kind of setting, they want to see it in the surround sound in the setting of other people, it will bring people out to the theaters. And that's the way it used to be, right? So basically, the studios are going to have to readjust to the way things were back in the 80s. Basically, back before the times when they could release 4 big movies a weekend, 4 movies a month each studio, right? Like, you can't do that anymore.
Well, and
I
I can
agree
also
with
tell,
all of you. It's
I'm sorry, go ahead.
people are just have to be more discerning with the amount of movies that they go to see. And if they see a trailer and if it really doesn't hook them, well, then they'll just wait till it comes to streaming. Or if they just don't think that they're really going to like it, then they will be more inclined to just not just save the money and wait till it comes out. That's just the environment that has been created. So it's up to the studios to give people what they want, to give them a reason to go and see this movie. And I think with Bad Boys, it's appealing to its fans, and I think that's why people are coming out to support it.
And there's another movie that people aren't really talking about all that much, and that's Garfield. And that's the thing, is they have priced themselves out of what they're doing, right? It's like you can't sell a hamburger for $5 anymore if you're spending, $20 to make a burger. So you have to figure out how to make that burger $5 or charge $20 for that burger, right? Well, we've told them we're not going to come to the theater and spend $20 a person or $100 for a couple to go to the theater, as Anna was just saying, right? Unless it's a reason, unless it's a Dune, unless it's something that's really going to make us want to go see it in IMAX or something like that. So they've got to start to adjust their budgets to the way things are. Garfield is making hand over fist money because it only costs $30 million to make. They have the Netflix deal. It made a bunch of money overseas. It's going to continue to make money because it's just a kid's movie that didn't cost that much to make. If they can start budgeting,
60 million.
I thought, was it 60? I thought it was 30, unless they were counting the tax, but it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Basically, Netflix paid for the movie at the end of the day. Is the way
well,
we
that's
look
why
at it.
studios like A24 are doing so well, because they buy in low and they make big profit, right? And that's the way studios used to be, is that you would budget for a certain amount, you go low and you gain profit after that, right? But they're not doing that. They have these
freedom.
They have these inflated budgets now, right? So they're basically losing money every time they make a movie.
Right.
And Bad Boys was 100 million, right? So they made it back in their opening weekend. It's production
Pretty
budget.
much. I mean, well, it'll take another week or two because, you know.
Yeah. But they've made surpassed a huge hurdle already. That's keeping their
another
costs
one that
low.
they're selling to Netflix. So, they already made some money back on that. So, yeah.
Well, Beverly Hills Cop 4. Is it the fourth one? I don't know. That's a Netflix thing.
Yeah,
but I feel like it's the same kind of vibe and same kind of fan base. But Netflix is just like gobbling up all these films. Hitman too. That's getting rave
That's another
reviews.
thing. A lot of people think that Beverly Hills Cop is coming to theaters. It's not.
Not.
That's a big mistake, especially after what Bad Boys played this way this weekend. I mean, come on.
And the reason why Bad Boys did so well is because number one, it's a consistent franchise, right? People who love the first 2 or 3 we're going to go watch this one anyway, right? It's a masculine buddy movie. It's a comedy, which is rare these days to get into a theater because for some reason Hollywood doesn't want to make comedies anymore.
Plus action, bullets, bombs, action,
like you get it all, right? And it's fun. It's a fun movie where you can shut your brain off. There's no politics. There's no agenda. You're just going in to have a good time and eat some popcorn. And that's why people are showing up to watch this movie.
No, I know. I saw it. Did you see it too, Verbal? Right? I don't know who else saw
it.
I
haven't seen it yet.
I haven't. I was going to go tonight. But I agree with everything you're saying. I think Star Wars Girl really teed it off perfectly. Because a few weeks ago, I was sharing, I went to the movie theater, I think it was to watch Fall Guy, and it cost me around $80. And people in the chat were like, that's not possible. And it is. It's expensive. And I was looking for this clip while y'all were talking. And Tarantino actually explained it, I think it was 2 weeks ago.
I've been saying this since the 80s when movie ticket prices, they were $5 forever in America. And then all of a sudden they started moving up to $6.50 and $7 and $7.25 and $7.50 and all this stuff. The key to what you're saying is this is a working man's art form. Yeah. It's not opera. No, it's not theater. It's not going to a big concert. It was the idea was that anybody could go and see a movie. That was one of the reasons why movies flourished in the 30s, and it's not anymore. No. We have priced them out until now. It's a deal.
I think it's spot on. That people can't afford it, and we see it all the time. Like Fall Guy, Drinker was saying, like, why did Fall Guy fail? Platoon, he's talked about that. I think you talked. No, Drinker was talking about why it failed because it was a good. He was wondering why it failed, and I saw it, and I was like, I thought it was just good popcorn fun, but people didn't know the franchise. But then we have here Bad Boys Ride or Die, and it's supposedly outperforming the last film, which is unusual.
Yeah, I don't know if it has necessarily technically with inflation and all that business, but go ahead, Little Platoon. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I mean, it's partly that you have to sort of look at, I guess, what the competition around it is as well. There simply isn't a huge amount to go and see at the cinema. It does have a built-in fan base. It has quite a core sort of demographic audience as well. All of these things help get bums on seats very quickly and quite reliably. And it sounds like it has the right profit estimations from the amount of money they were willing to spend on it. One of the reasons tickets get up in price is things cost more and more and more to make, and fewer people go to watch them because they tend to get worse and worse and worse and worse. Yeah. Mad Max is a really good example of this. The original Mad Max is made on the budget of $100,000, earns $100 million, and someone somewhere thought, hey, how about we spend 1,000 times as much because then we'll make 1,000 times as much money. Lo and behold, there isn't that big an audience for the franchise to the extent Fury Road never made money, popular though it was with the fan base, and Furiosa was never going to make money because it was never going to be even as popular as the last one that lost money. So this drive to spend more and make it more and more of a marquee production to try and outdo your competitors in spectacle misses the point of the art form. People will go and watch a really good story and they'll watch characters they like and love, and you can actually do that with very little money to spend.
And that was the lesson of the 70s. Because the studios tried to react to television by saying, well, we're gonna give the people what they can't get on television, which is widescreen Technicolor spectacle. And that worked for a while.
Well, and nudity.
Nudity. Always a good thing.
What passed for nudity in the 60s. But yes, certainly more racier stuff and
racier stuff, yeah.
Edgier stuff. Nothing's too racy or edgy for any medium anymore, so that's off the table. And it didn't. At the end of the day, by the time the 70s came around, people got back to making art films and character and story-driven films because the days of the massive MGM Ben-Hur type production were over. Just people weren't interested. It wasn't working anymore.
Well, and we also have to take into consideration, man, there is a generation gap, right? Like when we were younger, going to the movies was a weekly thing. It was something that we did because we didn't have the internet. We didn't have all the things the kids have now, right? So we would go to the theater every weekend because that was our way of socializing, of getting out. It was a low buy-in for like $3 or $4. So we went to the movies all the time. Like this younger generation doesn't really do that, right? Movies aren't their thing. I was on a show last night with DA, Derek Anderson, and one of the guests had his son on who's like 16. And he said he goes to 3 movies a year, right? The rest of his time is spent on Twitch and YouTube.
You'd go to the movies and you'd see your friends from school at the movie. Like that would be a social event. Yeah, you're 100% right.
I did it all summer long.
To incentivize them, right? I mean, so this is. I do get the argument from generation gaps and things like that, and I'm sure it does play a part, but I think that can be easily overstated. One of the quickest ways to do that is just you go through the 3 Marvel films after Avengers Endgame came out. Multiverse of Madness does, is it $900 million? Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania does, I think it was 400 million. And the Marvels does what, 250 or whatever. Like, I'm pulling those numbers out of my ass, but like that's sort of the rate of decline. And that's in the space of basically a year, 2 at most. That's not enough time for a generational gap to explain why people aren't going to the cinema.
But we can't put the MCU in this. Like the MCU was a phenomenon. It was like an event, right? Like going to see Avengers, that was like it was an event. It wasn't just
a different time.
Well,
it was a
also
different
the
time,
Marvel
sure,
movies
but-
are what kind of got us here. I hate to say it, because Tarantino and Scorsese are kind of right. Like we have a whole generation of kids now, and this is where I will agree with the generation issue. We have a whole generation of kids now that have grown up on nothing but like Marvel and Harry Potter movies, and they would not know what to do with a movie like Taxi Driver or Pulp Fiction now.
Or Blade Runner.
Or even Blade Runner for that. But they would think Blade Runner is boring and stupid and made no sense. And you're right. Like there's this gap of this ability of, and it's not all the kids. There are plenty of kids that I talk to that are young, that are up and coming in film school, and they're eating up a lot of older stuff and engaging in other kinds of films that aren't Marvel films. But unfortunately, there's a whole generation of kids that are kind of trained on this franchise kind of minded thing with Marvel, and they wouldn't know what to do with a normal movie now. So it's going to be difficult for some of them to adjust to that, and I don't know if they're ever going to be able to. It's going to be interesting.
I kind of disagree with you, Tom, because I feel like that's that trope where it's like you assume that your audience is dumb, and so they're not going to get it, and of course your audience is going to hate you. So of course the kids are checked out of movies and they don't want to go because it's not indulging them intellectually. So like for example, I took my stepdaughter to go see Dune. She couldn't give 2 shits about it, which I agree with her. I thought Dune 2 was terrible, but we watched Aliens and she like could not look away. And, she was fascinated by it. She's like, oh my gosh, she couldn't believe like what an old movie it was too. So it's like, I think kids today, they just get crappy movies. So of course they're going to assume everything is bad because they haven't seen any of the
Dune
other
is the
stuff.
best example to put up against.
Well, I'm just using the last time I went
but-
to the movie theater.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, because I mean, yeah, like Dune is like a very like here. I've even
It's
made
very
that point.
niche. Another movie that I saw.
Yeah,
And
yeah, no, I
honestly
get what you're
maybe
saying.
Sonic.
No, that's true. There's always going to be movies that will transcend, and I think people will be able to, like Wizard of Oz has lasted this long for a reason, right? And
Gone
almost
with the
everybody
Wind.
has seen it. Gone with the Wind. There's movies that will, but I don't know if it's going to take some time. I think we're going to need another revolution of indie directors like Quentin Tarantino's and Robert Rodriguez's and all those guys back in the day that really did kind of show us new and invigorative, that kind of Jackson was one of the last. That's years ago, though. That's the thing. We have not had any new voices. All these people that are coming in now are people that shouldn't even be making these kind of movies. That's the problem. That's the other problem we have here. So that's a whole nother.
Well, Tarantino, he still has his last film to put together, which they put on
Yeah,
hold.
but my point is you've got people like coming in here, like what's her face, who made the Eternals. Who worked on, like,
Yeah,
Chloe Zhao or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, so none of these people should ever be working on these movies.
Well, because she's a documentarian. I mean,
Exactly. I mean, I never thought I'd be saying, like, what is Michael Bay up to? He'd be a better choice. I mean, come on. I mean, what world are we living in
things are
here
bad.
I really hope
Michael Bay.
I really hope that there seems to be like this reckoning in Hollywood, and it is great to see in certain respects, but it is tough to see those that are suffering, the theater industry, who are just, you know, it's not their fault that the studios are making bad films and have put us in this state. But, you know, I feel like you can't take it for granted that you have to create a quality film, and you have to make it for an audience that you expect to show up. So to pay the money and to make an event out of it, but you can't just assume that people are going to go see it just because you're making it or just because it's a familiar IP. So I hope that this is the reckoning that regardless if it's an indie film or if it's a huge tentpole movie, you have to make it to please the masses. Like, you have to know your fan base and you need to create something good for them. You need to create a memorable experience at the theaters that they're going to support. And I feel like we're just in this time where studios do not care. They don't care about fans and they don't care about general audiences, just telling a decent story. But I do feel like there's a shift going on, because I just read a piece that the New York Times did, and I couldn't believe it. But they were praising YouTuber Jenny Nichols' review of the documentary style for experience at the Star Wars Hotel. And they were just commenting about how this disconnect is between studios and fans. It was very flattering to fans and consumers, while also calling out the corporate greed of Disney.
I have to read this article.
Yeah.
No, but Tom, everything y'all are saying is like Michael Bay. Where is The Rock? I mean, everybody remember The Rock?
Oh yeah. No, and what I was getting is that I will agree with Anna in that respect, that yeah, like the problem you have now is the wrong people are making the wrong movies, right? Like that's the bigger problem we have here.
Well, I think the people in Hollywood are just idiots. Like
that too.
They wouldn't even know how to make a good movie, and that's the sad part of it.
There are some out there. You have the problem of, like we were talking about before, like people like Leslie Headland and a few of these other people. Another example is that guy who's working on Doctor Who now. Help me out with his name.
Russell T. Davies.
Russell T. Davies. See, some of these people, I think, they are talented, but what happens is as soon as you let the reins off them, as soon as you take the leash off, that's when they start injecting their personal bullshit, and it becomes this other thing.
But he didn't do that for years, Tom.
I know. Well, that's because they wouldn't let him. That was my point. Like, they wouldn't let him gay it up that much. But you know, it's the same time. You have none of these people that are doing the jobs they should be doing. You got movies that are being made that nobody asked for, and that's a problem. So yeah, kids and adults alike are going to turn away. Bad Boys 4, on the other hand, you got the two directors there. I forget their name, Bilal, and I forgot the other guy's name. You know, these are the Batwoman or Batgirl directors and stuff like that, but they also made the last Bad Boys film, and that was their big claim to fame. And now they're back with this one. And look, at this point, these guys are doing what I was talking about. They're bringing what we love about the Bad Boys films and what Michael Bay brought to the franchise, but they're not bringing over a lot of the crap we didn't like, and they're adding their own new spin to it, right? And some of the stuff that they're doing with camera work and trying to do new things is really innovative. And I think that's the kind of thing that people are gravitating towards. I'm seeing a lot of kids that loved this movie, not people my age so much, but because a lot of people my age, I think, are avoiding the movie over the stupid Will Smith slap. I think less people care about that.
Nobody. You know what? I talked to Tom about this real quick before we wrap this segment up. Tom and I were talking about this before the show, and I had said I'm going to go see Bad Boys, and I was shocked that it's doing so well. He's like, well, yeah, well, what about the slap thing? I asked half the people I know. I had called them up the other night. Are y'all going to go see this? They're like, we already saw it. I'm like, didn't you tell me 2 years ago? There's no way you're going to see a Will Smith film again after what he did to Chris Rock. They're like, what did he do? I was like, okay, goldfish brains. They're like, he did something? I'm like, don't you remember that?
It might also be people want to support him, give him some money so he can divorce her.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny thing about this, right? Like, and that's kind of the conversation I had with somebody else. I'm like, really, nobody really. Will Smith is one of those actors who could make a comeback, and this might be his first step on the way. But you're right. Like, unless he gets rid of Jada, that's the thing that's going to weigh him down the whole time, unfortunately. But
Will Smith did something very important. He went away for a while.
Yeah.
After the slap, he disappeared.
And this movie is smart with how it handles him, and it doesn't like do it in your face like they do with the normal bullshit in Hollywood. It uses the story to bring the character down to earth a little bit, because his character in the movie is always the bulletproof super cop, right?
Right.
Well, in this movie, they find a way to flip the roles with Martin and Will, and I'm not going to spoil anything or get too
Did
much
Martin
into it.
slap him?
Yes. And I'm not gonna, and it's a great scene. I don't want to say anything more than that. It works in there, and it works in a way because I brought it up to some people. I'm like, what did you think about the slap scene? They're like, what do you mean? And I had to explain to them, like, oh yeah, I totally forgot that was in there. Yeah. And they're like, oh yeah, duh. I didn't even put two and two together. I'm like, oh yeah, it's very obvious. It's very obvious in my opinion. But yeah, because he smacks him once and then he's like snap out of it or whatever, and then he just starts smacking him like 3-4 times in a row. And I think Will took some actual slaps. Like, it looks like it's kind of his way of saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry,
Well,
I'm
at least he
sorry.
can laugh at himself then.
Well, that's good.
It doesn't make sense that his career would be over.
He's a great actor.
No, it's not like he did something
I
to a
just
kid.
did. I just
like
watched Men in
said-
Black and Independence Day. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
He's great.
Well, and like I said to
Such
George,
charisma.
I said the reason why people are forgetting about the slap is because we just saw Diddy throw some woman down a hallway. That's
Yes.
why.
Yes.
I mean, come on, that's nothing in comparison.
That's right. And now we're going to talk about how crazy things are, whether people are forgetting their Hollywood stupidity. All of y'all made brilliant points. There's a last topic I want to touch. It's one of the reasons I wanted Ron here. Ron, sorry about all these things. I should have put this up first. Did y'all hear what Adobe did? Because a lot of YouTubers, we use Adobe, right? Well, this is a crazy thing. Adobe, for the audience that doesn't know, Adobe Premiere, Photoshop. Well, Adobe is facing backlash over spyware-like terms of service update. So I don't read this whole thing. Basically, Grums has shared and talked about this. Anything you now create with Adobe and you update to their new terms of service, they own all your content. They can relicense it, sell it, do whatever they want with it. And the backlash has been growing. And what I'm wondering is legally, is this the future? Not legally, but these terms of service. This article goes into, Ron, where that stuff on your computer, right, that's even under NDA, Adobe says they have full access to. Nothing can be kept from them that they have a license to.
I don't think that's quite what it says.
Okay. Well, good. I'm glad.
And my understanding is that two things.
Yep.
One is that these terms are actually not so new.
Okay.
They've been in there for a couple of years. And number two is, unsurprisingly, it's not a grant of ownership. It's not a grant of, it's not a license. What they're saying is they're going to use it internally to analyze how people use the software. I'm not defending it, but I do think it's essentially.
I'm glad. I feel better because everybody was talking about it. And when I was reading it, it sounded like you put a video out or anything and they owned it. Sorry.
Yeah, because it has me worried too about some of the way. Because now they're saying, "Oh, we're just clarifying. It's always been in there. Now we're just clarifying." It's like,
Well,
well, what
I
did you
think
need
it also has to
clarify
do
it
with the
for?
fact that
Yeah.
people are so scared of AI right now, and they think that everything is being used to create AI. And it's like, so I have the entire Adobe suite, and I use it pretty much every single day. And I mean, they've always done that. It's like when you're playing a video game and like your game crashes, like, do you want to report this to this, them so they can use it? It's like you click no or you click yes. They were doing it already. And it's not like they actually get your work out. If they do use it for when they do promotions, like when you open up Photoshop and it's loading the loading screen, the art that's there, they obviously have to ask you for that. And usually it's a partnership thing. But they've been doing this forever. It's nothing new. I think just the way that they went about wording it kind of got people in an uproar because I think they are implementing an AI thing. So Adobe has their AI system, which is all like free to use. So it's not stealing people's copyright, which other AI programs use. They have this thing called Firefly, and you can go in. It sucks. It's terrible, but you can go and do your create AI images and all of that. And that's the safest way, or I guess
I don't really see any way to use a program to use these cloud-based programs without an expectation that the company is going to have access to the images. There's no, I mean,
well, if I may, real quick, it's not the access that I think is the people that people have a problem with. The problem with is as Anna was just saying, the way it's worded is now that they've quote unquote clarified what it means, they say they can alter things without.
Well, they say that they can like limit your access if you're doing bad things on there.
Yeah, and there's other things in there that are making people go, well, hold up, and who's the arbiter of deciding?
Yeah, that's gonna be an issue.
And that comes down to there's a lot of other programs out there that you don't have to use Adobe. It's just really convenient. That's the one that everyone knows. You can go use Clip Studio. You can use Procreate.
It's going to turn out to be it's going to turn out to be something. It's just another thing that we have to keep an eye on. Let's face it. If I told you that somebody was doing child pornography or animal cruelty using Adobe, and that they were aware of it, so one way or another.
Yeah, but see that those things are already illegal. See, that's the thing.
Things are already illegal.
Not in the form that they're trying to use it though. So one of the points for this process is that because Adobe is moving more into say AI image generation and things like that. If you're using the new tools that they are giving you by using a lot of the data to train their models, and then you're using that new tool to create a kind of image or an altered video, you might be manipulating the footage of a real person and putting them in situations they never were in. There are all kinds of new expanded uses given AI's increasing implementation in Adobe that create new, I would imagine, legal challenges for the company, which it has to have some way of being able to say, we cannot allow you to use AI to completely misrepresent another person, for example.
But is it just referring to the AI or just other things? See, that's where I think people are upset. And
Well, that's why it has to be broad, because they don't know how you're going to use it yet.
I got to go and save the actual world right now with a bunch of lawyers on a phone call on a Sunday at 5:00 because that's what I do.
Okay, well, you have to come back, Ron, because I had a question I've been dying to get to you. But thank you so much for coming. I really,
so long, everybody.
have a wonderful day.
Take care.
So, are y'all afraid about this Adobe thing? Does it bother you?
No, they were doing it before.
Not at all. Okay.
No, and all people that are complaining about NDAs, those are all freelancers. Most big companies, they have their own program that they want you to work from, so that way they can access it at any time. Like Pixar has their own program, Blizzard has their own program, so they all already have all of these things. I think it's just people that are freaked out about AI, and it's like Adobe's been doing this since the beginning. It's in their terms of service. Like you pay a subscription for the cloud. At this point, it's like, well, then just use a different system. Like I don't like it either, but I kind of have to buy the bullet because I have to use these programs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Quite often now as well, the fear isn't actually the AI itself. It's what humans behind the scenes will do with the new tools that they've given themselves. And so like one of the things I believe is in the new terms of service is expanding the ability for for Adobe's human content moderators to evaluate things that you are creating using the new AI tools that Adobe has. The fear there is not then that the AI might allow you to, or the AI will be trained using something you're doing that you're not wanting to share. It's more that what do the human moderators want to do with what they're letting you do with the platform? But that is sort of part and parcel of using somebody else's big company software, right? You do have to sign up to terms of service to use something like that. It's grating, sure, because you have to already pay a subscription and you don't like the idea that someone's going to sit there saying, we can't let you generate this image because it offends our DEI quota or whatever the fuck they'll say. But if you don't like that, go with the DaVinci because I gather that's cheaper.
I think you're right. And I wanted just to tell you from earlier when you were saying you pulled those numbers out of your ass about Marvels. By the way, you're almost spot on. Come out of my ass. You were almost spot on. I had looked it up while you were talking. It was 206 million was the worldwide gross for Marvels.
I overestimated, and I thought I was underplaying it.
And 955 for Multiverse of Madness. So but you were around the area. And before we wrap up, I wanted to show everybody. I really appreciate y'all coming. I mean, this phenomenal panel. I wanted to show everybody who doesn't know what it used to be like since we had started with Star Wars. The lines that people used to wait for. I mean, when I was growing up, this
arrived at the Cinerama on University Avenue shortly after noon on Tuesday. By 9 at night, the line encompassed several dozen people. The all-night vigil ends Wednesday morning at 11 when these people finally get to buy tickets to the first showing of The Empire Strikes Back. Do you think this is going to be as big as Star Wars?
Bigger.
And yet a lot of the critics are panning it.
Well, what do they know?
You're going to be missing any classes by being out here?
Yes.
That doesn't bother you?
No.
The Empire is worth it, huh?
Right.
What are you expecting from this one that Star Wars didn't give you?
Build on the characterizations, hopefully.
What time is the final?
10:30.
They don't start selling tickets till 11.
He's here. He's my. Sure. We'll have more in the morning.
If he's going to buy your ticket, why are you sitting here all night?
Because I wouldn't buy his ticket if he wouldn't sit here all night.
When Star Wars premiered at the Valley Circle Theater a couple of years ago, it had a run of 15 months. The manager of the Cinerama expects Empire to make it through Christmas at least. Most of these people think it'll be going.
So what do y'all think of that? I don't remember the last time that ever happened except for Dark Knight. For Dark Knight there were lines, and for Lord of the Rings.
There was lines for Avengers.
For which?
Avengers.
Avengers. Okay. I'd missed those.
When
I don't
could,
know.
you could reserve your seating. I don't know when that came on the scene, but
Well,
once
that wasn't
that
until way
happened,
later.
yeah, once that happened, then yeah. But I do remember being in line and for some movies. But
Yeah, but there are no movies that have 15-month runs anymore in the theaters, are there? There haven't been for years. Because I remember Star Wars was around forever, and then Empire, like it was in the theater.
that's just awesome, though. That just speaks to fans' devotion, and it amazes me that studios just don't want to give the fans what they want. They are so ready to just immerse into another world, and they just want that devotion reciprocated. We just want you to just give us what we want,
they
and we
made
will be
money.
there. We will go that far. We will buy everything. We will wait in line if we had to, if you gave us something that you wanted, that you made with care, and that you knew the fans would like. Man, that makes me sad but fans like that exist today. I just wish the studios would just have that same care and devotion to their potential audience and fan base.
Well, those same fans that were waiting in line are the ones that they're shitting on now, which is wild to me.
We're still here. They're still here, but yeah, you've just shunned us.
For now they're here. I don't think they're going to be here very long. Honestly, I've already lost my love for Star Wars.
Yeah.
And it hurts to even say that, but I've gotten rid of a lot of Star Wars stuff because I don't care anymore, man. Between the movies, between Mark Hamill saying dumb shit all the time on Twitter, I just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Like I lost my love for
it. Is dead for as long as they want it to be dead, and I feel like they do not care anymore about pleasing the fans or delivering a quality Star Wars experience. They don't care, and it will be dead for as long as they don't care.
But they made money, Nerd Cookies. That's the thing. 15 months? I mean, you'd think they'd want to make money today. Could you imagine having an Avengers or Endgame or Rings for 14 months, 15 months in the theaters? That's just...
I mean, clearly there's a mix of just lack of creativity, but also poor business decisions. Like, I can't believe they were asking people to spend $6,000 for a weekend LARPing session that didn't work. I mean, who is making that decision? Not only is it just horrible from a creative standpoint, I mean, I could come up with something better that fans would go see, but also the fact that they thought people would spend that much money and get sat behind a pillar and expect you not to say anything, not to criticize. Otherwise, you're going to risk, being criticized yourself by what kind? Oh, you're not a Star Wars fan if you don't sit behind a pole and pay $6,000 and be grateful that we gave it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you all for coming. I'm going to read the super chats right now as we wrap up. I mean, all of y'all. Elaine, Tom, that Star Wars girl, I really hope you're feeling better. Verbal.
Oh, thank you.
And Little Platoon. I'll read these real quick and then we'll go around so everybody can know where to find you. Arrakis Central for $5. Shout out to Nerd Cookies, my hero.
Thank you.
There she is. She's amazing. We got Andrew Honeycutt for $5. I like Little Platoon's take on current issues. So do I. Perhaps we're not as divided as modern media would have us believe. Controversies make money. There you go. Little Platoon is a man. Abstract JWL for $5. More Platoon. Just finished your
Fail Light episode 1 video. Love you. No homo.
That was not what it stood for, but yes. You
Okay.
can't say the thing it actually stood for.
I had called Acolyte Acolyte. Is that what you were trying to? Was that okay?
Along
The
those
Jackals
lines.
of- yeah, I got it. The Jackals of Terra Argentum became a YouTube member. Thank you and welcome aboard, Jackal. We got Olaf for another €2. The Assassin Sithnot, probably one of Twin's moms. Sithnot. Okay, got it. I'm not reading well today. The Assassin Sithnot. Andrew Honeycutt for another $5. I don't think the writers are aware of the messaging they are portraying. I think they're aware. In an attempt to compensate for their own issues, they are doing harm. Even though I sometimes think that a lot of the woke content is just camouflage for people who are absolutely retarded window lickers. The Jackals of Terra Argentum for $10. If they wanted to be critical of the Jedi Order, they set the show during the New Sith Wars when the Jedi took over the Republic and spent 1,000 years as theocratical tyrants. But nope, we got this. I didn't know about that. I'd like to know what book that's in. I'd love to read that. Anna, do you know when that was? Is that in a particular book?
I'm sorry, I was not paying attention.
Oh, they were talking about the Sith Wars and that the Jedi were.
Oh yeah, read the Darth Bane trilogy and then go from there.
Oh, okay, because they're saying the Jedi came across as theocratical tyrants.
Yeah, so there used to be a bunch of Jedi and a bunch of Sith, and then Darth Bane changed that, and that's kind of like the starting point because Darth Bane gets rid of all the Sith and creates the rule for 2. And so because there's not this like just abundance of Sith, the Jedi have an easier time taking over. So that's kind of the starting point.
Cool.
So just start there and go on. But the first book is great. The second and third books were very rushed. So just take it with a grain of salt.
Okay, I'm going to take a look at that. Thank you. Andrew Honeycutt for $10. Movies, books, and comics are akin to the mythology of old in that they represent the best and worst of humanity. Everyone has the right to agree or disagree, and that's what makes art. We're all human. We are, except Kathleen Kennedy. I think she's a living, walking, talking embodiment of a strap-on for Star Wars fans. But that's just me. Syndak for $5. Hollywood's agenda over storytelling has turned entertainment into propaganda. It has turned into a failed business model. Bankruptcy is the only answer. Amen. We need something new to replace Hollywood. Old Man Rising for $5 to Ryan. Well, he's not here. I apologize. I'll get him this message. I formally apologize. I didn't see Dave Filoni as a crime against Lucas sooner than I did. Filoni, Judas, Lucas. Ryan was right. Yeah, I will say this, and Ryan probably hated it. I liked Clone Wars from Filoni in the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tried warning people for years too.
Though I hated everything he's done since then. I really thought he was going to save it. I was completely wrong.
2D Clone Wars for the win.
Jay Fraser 360 for £5. George, I recommend these 3 channels as possible future guests for Slayer Nation. Star Wars discussions, Mr. Grizzy, the Renaissance Nerd, and Dermy Wormy. I will write them down. Thank you. I will go check them out. Appreciate that. Mexican Iron Man for $5. This panel is the true embodiment of intelligence and real diversity as a diverse set of opinions. Bravo to all of you. This show is great. Well, thank you to our intrepid, wonderful producer who's not a YouTuber. Anvek for $2. Just going to compare Adobe to D&D OGL. Oh, a bad deal. I still worry about Adobe. Thank you, Anvek. And that should be it. ActionCom for $2. Who saw Red Letter Media's theater video?
I did.
Seen it. Okay, how was it?
It was really good. Although I do feel that they kind of missed some points. You know, I feel like they had a certain narrative, I guess, or theme. And I feel like there were other factors as far as the downfall of the theater industry that could have been a part of the conversation. But very well done in every other respect. It's a Red Letter Media, quality. So
wonderful. I'm gonna go check it out.
Very intriguing.
I don't know. I didn't like it so much. I quit watching it. Not just because we got thrown under the bus right away, but
yeah, I did.
No, it was because of the fact that they obfuscated and kind of gaslit that it couldn't possibly be because any of this woke crap. So let's just move on from that and get into this old research that I did from 5 years. Because that's the thing is Mike started getting into this shit. It's like, that's crap we said years ago. So to me, it really kind of rubbed me the wrong way from the start. I like them and all, but I feel like they've kind of been out of touch a little bit lately with some of this stuff, and they don't want to admit some of the obvious things that are out there, just because then they would be getting themselves into this culture war or whatever they see it, basically doing what they threw us under the bus for in the beginning of the video.
Yeah, they're usually so well researched, and that was kind of sad to see some of the thumbnails in there that really were not a part of the point that they were trying to make, because there were very positive reviews of Furiosa in there, and it wasn't a part of the initial conversation when it was about Furiosa. But the rest of the video is interesting. But again, like I was saying, there are definitely some points missing as that should be a part of the whole conversation as well as the theater industry goes. But yeah, just
Wow. I'm gonna check it out. I want to see
Anybody
it.
else see it?
Platoon, Anna.
No, I can't stand red letter media.
Gotcha. Verbal the same.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet either. I actually do like them, but I just haven't seen it.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna check it out. And I think we have the last one, Steel Leg of History for $2. Be blessed, everyone. Thanks to whoever subbed. Remember, go check out Steel Leg of History and all these amazing people on the panel. So what do y'all say over and under before we get going for Acolyte? Is there going to be a season 2? Even for those who haven't seen it. Because they're saying they want 3 seasons. And I prayed about
really?
it.
Well, I already said I'm tapping out after episode 3. I just need to see how bad it is.
Oh, that's episode 4.
I'm morbidly curious about how bad it is. Because I would have tapped out already, but I just need to see this.
3 is where it really kills 90% of it. 4 is where it finishes it. What I've heard, because I've seen 3. But 4, according to Alan Ng, is where the pronouns come in. Like they did in the Tales of Empire, the animated series.
And I don't understand how they could justify it. This season alone is $180 million or 8 half-an-hour-long episodes, which almost no one is watching, and no one will be watching by the end, except because they are morbidly curious as to how bad it is. There is no way, but if they renew that and spend an equivalent amount of money on a season 2 and 3, there's no artistic justification for it, and there's no actual profit motive for it, so there must be something else going on. I can't imagine what that might be, but, you know.
It's the message. It can't be anything else. It's like Rings of Power. How do you make a season 2? I mean, even though they have a contract for 5 seasons, off the back that they lost 63% of their audience in the first one. I mean, it just doesn't work. Thank you again for everyone for coming. We'll start with Tom. Tom, let everybody know where they can find you so they can subscribe.
Midnight's Edge After Dark. I have another channel called Lost Classics if you're into goofy songs and such. Otherwise, yeah, those are the 2 main places to find me. And thanks for having me. I'm glad I got to hang out with people. It's been a long time since I got to talk to Elaine. So, yeah.
It's awesome. Elaine, you're up. Nerd Cookies, thank you for being here.
You know the devil.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great chatting with all of you and in the chat as well. Great to hear your thoughts. But yeah, you could find me here on YouTube at Nerd Cookies. I cover sci-fi and fantasy news and lore, cover a kind of array of topics. So hopefully you'll find something you like. You can also find me at Twitter, at Twitter, X or whatever, at Nerd Cookies. And yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Oh, it was a blast. Verbal.
Yeah. Again, thanks for having me on. You can find me at Verbal Riot on YouTube, Rumble, and X. And I always put the disclaimer out: if you have a very thin skin or if you need trigger warnings, I'm probably not the guy to follow. Your feelings might get hurt a little bit, but other than that, if you just want to be entertained, by all means, follow.
Absolutely, you're gonna love his takes. Spice to the max. Thank you, Verbal. And I really appreciate you coming. I know you were telling me how you felt. So
my turn. Hi, everyone. I'm That Star Wars Girl. You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, all under That Star Wars Girl. I've been kind of MIA lately because I've been very, very ill because I'm growing a human. And
yes, congratulations on that Star Wars baby, by the way. It's first time.
Supposedly, this little shit is going to stop making me feel like crap soon. I guess like when you enter the 2nd trimester is when all the puking and
yeah, you're going to get all the weird cravings. So in other words, you're going to start eating normal food.
Yeah, so I'm going to finally have an appetite, which will be nice. So I might be back to making content soon, but I've just been kind of dying in bed the last couple of months. So I've been MIA, but I will be getting back to doing things hopefully soon. They're like, you're either going to get better or it's going to get worse. And I was like, oh God. So
Fingers
Thank you
crossed
for inviting
you.
me.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for showing up. Appreciate it. And we got Platoon. Well, everybody, we got Platoon.
My sister is actually in the same position at the moment. She is puking everywhere and not having fun. So my sympathies, but also congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, Little Platoon is on YouTube. Lost Chord is the second channel. There's an Acolyte video out at the moment. It's a short one from me, and that it is only 3 times longer than the episode it's covering. So go watch that.
Please go sign up to all of them. Congratulations to Anna for pretty soon having that Star Wars baby. Thank you for being here. Elaine, Verbal, Little Platoon, Tom. Typically, we had started doing an after show, but y'all know I was in an accident, so my back still isn't going to do it. Next week, we're going to start it back up with the after show. Other than that, I wish you all a wonderful week. You're the most amazing chat. We got the king of moderators. Thank him for Eric K., Lord Thoth, Fletcher Williams, and our amazing producer, Mexican Iron Man. Till next week, you know, if you want to win every battle and stay true to yourself, all you have to do is to remember that we never bow down, we never bend the knee, always forward.